Is the regularly scheduled city council meeting. Today is August 11th. All please rise and begin our meeting with a prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city, to make it a better place to live and work. Amen. We now salute our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk kindly call the roll?
Counsel Mercia.
Here.
Counsel Milanazzo.
Here.
Counsel Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Samaras.
Here.
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Mayor Elliott.
Here.
Counsel Kennedy.
Here.
Counsel Leahy.
Here.
Counsel Martin.
Here.
9 present.
Before we begin our regularly scheduled agenda, the chair would like to recognize Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber for a remarkable woman and a wonderful friend of mine, but most importantly, she was a friend to all that met her. Audrey Ann McMahon was the best friend, high school sweetheart, and beloved wife of Robert McMahon, with whom she had celebrated 59 years of marriage. Audrey was born in Lowell and was educated in the Lowell school system and was a graduate of the Lowell High School class of '56. Audrey was a varsity cheerleader for all 4 years at Lowell High School, as well as a cheerleader for the city of Lowell all her entire life. She married the love of her life, Bob, at the Sacred Heart Church in a double ring ceremony shared with Bob's brother Gerald and Audrey's sister Frances. In her early years, Audrey had been employed as a teacher's aide at the Rogers and Malloy School. At the Malloy School is where I met her. All 4 of my children raved about this kind woman that worked in the office with Mr. Leo Parent. I knew I just had to meet her, and they were right. She was a delight. We became instant friends, sharing stories and an abundance of jokes. I loved her dearly. Councilor Belanger?
Audrey McMahon worked for the City of Lowell in the office of the city clerk, where she was clerk to the city council subcommittees. Most recently, she was employed by the Lowell Council on Aging Senior Center as a senior volunteer coordinator. Audrey helped people in need. She was involved in countless charities and fundraising efforts throughout Lowell and the Merrimack Valley. Audrey and her husband were bell ringers for the Salvation Army every year during the holiday. Their charitable work spanned decades. They were supporters and volunteers of the Lowell Folk Festival and Winterfest. Audrey was the Queen Mother of the Merrimack Valley chapter of the Red Hat Society. She was an avid cribbage player and played in many leagues. She held membership in Lowell Lodge of Elks and the Lowell Senior Center. Audrey was blessed with a large, loving family. Besides her husband, Bob, she is survived by her daughter, Doreen, and sons, Robert, Brian, Daniel, and Edward. 9 children and 2 great-grandchildren. We offer our sympathy to the family. She will be truly missed by her dear family, her many, many friends and associates, with all those she met along the way. May you rest in peace. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for a remarkable woman and a wonderful friend of mine. But most importantly, she was a friend to all that met her. Audrey Ann McMahon was the best friend, high school sweetheart, and beloved wife of Robert McMahon, with whom she celebrated 59 years of marriage. Audrey was born in Lowell and was educated in the Lowell school system and was a graduate of Lowell High School, class of '56. Audrey was a varsity cheerleader all 4 years at Lowell High School, as well as a cheerleader for the city of Lowell all her life. She married the love of her life, Bob, at the Sacred Heart Church in a double ring ceremony shared with Bob's brother Gerald and Audrey's sister Frances. In her early years, Audrey had been employed as a teacher's aide at the Rogers and Malloy schools. I just would like to say that Audrey McMahon and the entire McMahon families were dear friends of mine. To know Audrey McMahon was to love her, and she will be sadly missed by all, and we just want to give our respects and condolences to all family members. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Mercier. Councilor Belanger, I'm sure you speak for the entire city council. Could we all please rise for a moment of silence, and could we please darken the chambers? May she rest in peace. If we may, we just revert back to the original, to the agenda. First item on the agenda, we have mayor's business. We have proclamation to Lowell Community Health Center. We have representatives from Community Health Center here. Please, if you could come to the podium, Dorcas, please. On behalf of the city, we would like to offer this proclamation to the Lowell Community Health Center in recognition of National Health Center Week. There was no better way to kick off the week or the day. Certainly, we'd like to issue this proclamation as we have in the past. But this morning, we started the morning with some lively music, some coffee and donuts, and the second annual group hug at Lowell Community Health Center. It was a pretty good way to start the day. So with that, we want to thank you for your commitment to the city, and I think the proclamation says it all. So I'd like to read it. City of Lowell, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, by His Honor Rodney M. Elliott, the Mayor, a proclamation. Whereas from August 9th through the 15th, 2015, our nation celebrates National Health Center Week, an annual tribute to more than 1,200 community health centers throughout the country that are committed to providing affordable, high-quality, and cost-effective health care to all people, regardless of their ability to pay for services. Here in the city of Lowell, we are fortunate to have one of the first and most effective of these successful health care delivery models, Lowell Community Health Center. And whereas since its inception in 1970, our health care center has provided quality, culturally competent health care services for all Lowell residents. And for 45 years now, no patient has been turned away because they lack insurance, could not speak English, or presented with complex and thereby costly medical conditions. Today, nearly half of all Lowell residents now choose Lowell Community Health Center as their family doctor. And as a result, its long-awaited expansion over 2 years ago, Lowell Community Health Center has become even a larger contributor to our local economy. And whereas the Lowell Health Center now serves as the 10th largest employer in the city of Lowell with 392 employees, over 100 new jobs created since its relocation to Jackson Street. And more than half of the health center employees are Lowell residents. The vast majority of the staff live within a 15-mile radius of the city. Lowell Community Health Center not only cares for our community's health, it also serves as an economic engine for the entire greater Lowell area. In 2014, the overall regional economic impact of the health center was estimated at $51.5 million annually. Now, therefore, I, Rodney M. Elliott, Mayor of the City of Lowell, do hereby proclaim the week of August 9th through the 15th, 2015, as National Health Center Week. We urge all citizens to recognize and applaud the hardworking staff and the many important contributions made by the Lowell Community Health Center. On behalf of the city, we thank you. We thank you for your contributions. We thank you for your service. We thank you for your impact that you have on all of Lowell residents. Given on this 11th day of August, 2015, by myself, Rodney M. Elliott, the Mayor, on behalf of all my colleagues here in the City Council, the City Administration, and the 108,000 residents, we thank you and we congratulate you on National Healthcare Center Week.
On behalf of the patients and the staff of Lowell Community Health Center, thank you, Mayor and fellow city councilors for recognizing National Community Health Center Week. It's the time when we pay tribute to the vital role that health centers play in providing access to high-quality, affordable health care for all. We provided you with some information packets and a small token of our appreciation for your partnership in our work. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the Community Health Center movement, which began right here in Massachusetts. We are one of 9,000 community health center sites for 1,200 community health centers nationwide. In Lowell, 90% of our patients are low income, although we take all health insurances, and the majority of the 50,000 people we serve live in the city of Lowell. 45% are best served in a language other than English, and a third are children. We work very hard to help the children grow into healthy, productive adults. Since moving to our Jackson Street location in December of 2012, we've gained nearly 10,000 new patients. We've added specialty services such as neurology, podiatry, and ophthalmology, and we're working with Lowell General to expand lab and imaging services at the health center. We're in the process of developing 101 Jackson Street, the building next door, for additional uses, and we're committed to fully integrating mental health and substance abuse treatment for youth and adults in with our primary care. You've heard about the health center as an economic engine employing 392 people. Each time that we come to the City Council, I like to highlight something that's a little bit different at the health center. And I'd like to introduce you to Ronnie Moot, a community health worker who focuses on well-being by promoting self-advocacy. As part of her work, she encourages patients to register to vote, many times for the very first time, or pledge to vote in upcoming elections. So many of the people that we serve are new to the United States and may not have enjoyed the privilege of participating in the democratic system. Ronnie helps them understand that their voice matters when it comes to policy making, healthcare, or otherwise. Ronnie, could you tell us about your progress?
Yes, thank you, Dorcas. Yes. To date, we have registered 425 new voters, and a total of 900 people have pledged to vote in upcoming elections.
So thank you. So that's 425 people who might not have registered to vote if they had not been coming to the health center and seeing Ronnie. We believe that health is about much more than the absence of disease. Insurance doesn't pay for many services vital to well-being, such as medical interpreting, supporting healthy youth development, community health education and screening, and linking patients to food, shelter, jobs, and community supports. Instead, we count on our annual wraparound fund to cover those costs. We seek to raise an additional $150,000 for the wraparound fund by the end of our fiscal year on September 30th, and welcome community involvement at any level through the fund or through our RDOP project that you've heard about in the past. Thank you for the opportunity to update you on our work, and we so appreciate your support and partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorcas, and thank you, Ronnie, for all your work in the community as well. Look forward to seeing you again. So moving on with the agenda, we have under the city clerk, we have the minutes of the city council meeting of July 28th. We also have minutes from the transportation subcommittee on that same day, the 28th, and we have minutes from a special city council meeting on August 3rd for acceptance. Move to approve and place on file by Council Milanazzo, second by Council Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. Minutes are adopted and placed on file. Entertain a motion to suspend the agenda, suspend the rules to take an agenda order item out of order by Council O'Rourke, second by Council Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. I'll suspend the rules to take in item T under the city manager's motion responses. On page, that would be on page 3. This is under informational. We have a presentation of the joint marketing plan. We have representatives from the various agencies that are here with us this evening. So while we are still fresh and attuned, we have a long agenda. We want to make sure we get this in. But with that, Mr. Manager, I'd like to recognize you for this more important presentation of marketing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the council and the people watching at home. The City of Lowell, UMass Lowell, and the Lowell Plan are joining forces on a new marketing campaign designed to highlight what makes the city a great place to live, work, study, and play. The campaign, #Lowell, There's a Lot to Like, will feature colorful images depicting scenes from the city that illustrate that message. The awareness campaign is intended to draw new visitors, businesses, students, and others to Lowell. I want to thank all of the people who were involved in the focus groups in coming up with a marketing plan. I especially want to thank Jim Cook from the Lowell Plan, who is present here this evening, for their financial support of the joint marketing plan. Obviously, our Division of Planning and Development that was critically involved, and most importantly, the entity that has developed the marketing plan, University of Massachusetts Lowell. I'd like to ask Bryce Hoffman if you could just come up and give a brief presentation on what the marketing plan is going to look like that we're going to roll out in the beginning to middle of September.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Elliott, councilors, for a little bit of your time this evening. I know it's a long agenda, so I will make haste describing this marketing program that we've put together in partnership with the Lowell Plan and with the city. Before I begin that, I'd like to thank City Manager Murphy and also Jim Cook from the Lowell Plan for their support along the way. I think together we've cooked up something that you're going to like very much. Let's see if the technology works. There we go. So the charge we started with, this is something that the city manager brought us in to talk about some months ago, was to improve the image of the city of Lowell, leading to increased commerce, tourism, event attendance, economic development, and civic pride. These are, of course, the things that all cities want, but we need to find a way to make Lowell stand out among different localities and to use our unique qualities to our advantage. But we have some challenges along the way as well. Focus groups were conducted, and one of the things that comes up regularly in these focus groups is that among some people there's a stubborn perception that Lowell is unsafe, or that there's not a reason to come here if there's not a festival or a special event that particular weekend or weekday. To overcome this, we've designed a campaign, when in doubt, tell the truth, that simply shows there's a lot to like about Lowell. So here's the concept that we worked with. This was me and the marketing office at UMass Lowell, along with a number of my colleagues who aren't here tonight, but whose work was absolutely vital to what you see before you. The concept is a campaign that's built on images of a vibrant city in progress. That is to say, pictures of our city the way it is today. And the tone that we wanted to strike was that this is a city that does not have anything to apologize for, that has the life that people are looking for, not just in this city, but in the cities surrounding this city and in the region. A city that's confident in what makes it great, that doesn't have to and doesn't feel the need to compare itself to anywhere else. A place that's authentic, accessible, and interesting. So here's what it looks like. We've decided to emphasize dynamic and beautiful photography, using all Lowell photographers. We haven't even shot anything new for this campaign. These are photos that already existed. We like them so well, we're building them into ads. The ad copy itself is modular and repetitive, but it changes just enough to keep showing you the city from a different angle. So in this ad, the sample that you see here, this is how we dance. Each ad is going to have a line just like this. This is how we, the verb is going to change, the image is going to change, the colors are going to change, but that's the style of every ad that this campaign will have, and what that creates is a campaign that shows a lot of different things about Lowell, but in a way that's consistent and memorable and where they belong in a family together. The reason we chose to turn Lowell into a hashtag is because that's the hashtag people already use. We just want to make sure they're using it to say positive things about the city of Lowell and to see us in a positive light. It also allows us to measure the campaign. The university has access to a platform called Pulsar that allows us to take snapshots of social media chatter around different keywords and hashtags. So we're going to take a snapshot before this campaign starts to run. We're going to take a snapshot right in the middle, and then one afterward to see what kind of difference it made. And we've actually never played with this tool before, so we're kind of interested to see what it's going to get us. But we're excited to be able to measure things that didn't used to be measurable. The tagline is not something we made up, it's something that you adopted. There's a lot to like about Lowell. There's a lot to like about that tagline too, so we're going to use it. We just wanted to turn it just a little bit so it's fresh. So we're saying, Lowell, there's a lot to like. And the strength of this campaign is going to be in its diversity. We're not showing you one thing to like about Lowell or two things. We're going to show you as many as 50. And we're going to show them all over the place in a lot of different media that we'll talk about in a minute. So this campaign, we think, will not tire out as quickly as other campaigns do if they have just one or two ads that are out there, ad nauseum. So I want to show you 5 different ad families that are how we're going to try to capture the many things there are to like about Lowell. The first category is arts and culture. It's a place where Lowell excels. We intend to take advantage of that. This is a photo from the summer music series, but there are a number of examples that we'll probably bring into the creative. We also have unique people and places. You see here we've got the beautiful cobbled walkways downtown, and a new addition to the city, the Luna Theater. And this is really going to be driven by what are the photos that really make this city shine. The mouse is a little bit, there it is. This is a great place to eat. I've only been in Lowell about a year, and I've just begun to touch on the many places and the many styles of dining available. We're going to make sure that we show that off because people love to eat. It's something they'll travel for if they feel they can get a quality meal someplace. And the next category, hello. There it is, sports and leisure. We've got the spinners, we've got hockey, we've got all kinds of other sports. We've got prep sports. There are a lot of places where we can go with this, and also just individual people kayaking, hiking, biking, so forth. The last category is education, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Certainly we're going to feature the university in some of these spots. We'll also feature places like Middlesex and some of our new startups. All kinds of places could fit into this category. The target markets for this campaign are actually relatively broad. We bounded it geographically within a 30-minute drive, give or take. We think that's how far people might come to experience something in the city of Lowell. And resources also have some limitation on how far you can go with a campaign like this and not spread yourself too thin. Demographically, we kind of want to reach everybody. This is an image campaign. We want seniors, we want families, we want young couples, we want entrepreneurs, we want students. There's not very many people that we don't want to have a good opinion of the city of Lowell. And we're not going to compete with Boston. Now that's actually more of a media strategy decision than anything else. It's very expensive to go buy media directly in Boston. We think we can do better by staying out of that and deploying our resources in places where we can do so more affordably. They'll last longer, they'll go further. You're probably interested in the campaign details. As has been alluded to, this is a partnership between the City of Lowell, UMass Lowell, the Lowell Plan, and within the Lowell Plan are actually a number of individual entities that are contributing to this. So there's many more partners than you see here. Our projected budget right now is $250,000, and the good news, I mean, there's a lot of good news here, but some of the best news is that all of that money is going to go toward buying actual advertising space because the university is providing a number of in-kind services that would be expensive to procure on the open market: creative concept, media strategy, production, placement, trafficking, assessment. All those things are going to be handled by the university so that the money raised can go toward extending the campaign as widely and for as long as we can. Our timeline right now is that we'd like to launch in September. In fact, we sent the first ads out on Friday. They will be in Merrimack Valley magazine. We'll have a couple of full-page ads in the next issue. And we'll be ramping up across a number of different media channels through December. We want to back off a little bit over the winter months so that we can come back again in the spring with another sort of second wave that'll be a little smaller than the first wave. The budget will determine some of that. Here's how the media breakdown looks. I'll give the percentages in case that's difficult for anybody to read. The largest portion right now is between billboards and out of home, which is to say billboards and signs. On major freeways, you'll see them on 495, you'll see them on 93, you'll see them on the connector. And digital will be internet ads. You'll see them on websites that you go to, in all likelihood. Millions and millions of impressions are available to us for the amount that we have to spend. We'll also be doing some print advertising, and the one we just added to the mix very recently is cinema pre-roll advertising. So when you all go to see the next Star Wars movie, if you go to a theater that we're in, you'll see an ad for the city of Lowell before you see your movie. We like that technique because it brings in people from the suburbs, and because people who can afford to buy a movie ticket can afford to buy a dinner, and they can afford to buy a hockey ticket, and they can afford to do a lot of other things in our city that we'd like them to do. I'll stop there and take questions if you have any, and you can see a couple more sample ads. These are actually two of the ads that we sent for Merrimack Valley Magazine on Friday.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Manager, anything else to add? Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, we'll go right to the council.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the presentation, and I just want to, again, thank the group for the collaboration that's been put forward under the leadership of the city manager working with UMass Lowell and the Lowell plan. I think that this is a very good marketing campaign. I think it's one that's going to make a real difference here in the city. When you talked about the 32% on billboards, my question has to do with whether or not any of those billboard ads would be pro bono as a result of, again, some of these billboard companies coming into the community, and I know that they have to and give back to the community where this is a community-based campaign. Do you see any of those billboard ad being pro bono?
Mr. Manager.
Yes, great question. We have a number of credits with the billboards that are on Lowell. Some of the credits we're going to be, I believe you're going to be using Clear Channel also, which is different from ours, but we do have credits. It's interesting. We're not only are we going to be able to be using cash that we're contributing, but we have credits on the billboards, and we also have credits on WCAP. We're still working on how you convert this to a radio ad, but we are going to be using our credits also. So it really is going to be more than $250,000. So good question.
Perfect. Thank you.
Council Leahy, then Council Belanger.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say thank you for the presentation, and I really like this. It's a fresh and unique idea. It's a new way to roll this campaign out, and it's very creative. So congratulations on that. I love that.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question before I make a few comments. Through you to Bryce. Now, Bryce, have you determined, I know the manager stated the local radio station, but have you determined that radio and television is not as effective as what you're showing us this evening?
Mr. Hoffman.
Speaking bluntly, we can't afford television in this market. It was something that we considered early on, but I think we can go further faster by leaving television off the table. Radio serves many purposes, but in the case of this campaign, the reason we didn't go strongly in the direction of radio is because we think that in this case, seeing is believing and you can't see radio. So we could talk on radio about how beautiful Lowell is, but when you see this picture of the beautiful trolley, I think that makes more of a difference for us. Now, we may go in the radio direction in a future buy, and as the city manager alluded to, we would like to make use of WCAP, but we haven't quite figured out how to translate this into an audio format. We're continuing to work on that. It's certainly nothing is ruled out for the future. What you see here is phase one of a campaign that we hope to sustain over a long period of time.
Excellent, well done. And in closing, I certainly would like to thank all the partners involved here, because the city of Lowell is to benefit, the UMass Lowell, and it goes on and on. But a big reach out to, Jim Cook and the Lowell Plan, who has been a huge success, part of our success to this point and going forward. And I'd like to thank Jim Cook and the Lowell Plan for their generous contribution towards marketing this city. And we're talking $250,000 plus in-kind advertising that we'll also be receiving, as the manager stated. And having the university as one of our proud partners, and their resources that they bring to the table with their production and expertise that they're bringing to the table means that all of that $250,000 goes to advertising, when in essence, most cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth would have to probably pay for a marketing consultant or a marketing firm. So all of this money goes directly out to marketing itself. So I think we need to be grateful for that. And a big thank you to the university and their contributions. And I think this is going to be a big plus for the city in the next year. So thank you to all those involved once again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council. Council Samaras.
Thank you. Thank you. A question. How will you measure the success of this campaign?
Mr. Hoffman.
That's a question we get for every campaign that we run for the university or for anybody else, and it's difficult is the answer. We will be tracking the social media, as I mentioned. And the tool that I alluded to, called Pulsar, allows us to track across the web how people are talking about Lowell when they use that hashtag. We will be able to aggregate that, and this technology is really neat. It actually assigns a positive or negative valence to the chatter itself. So we'll be able to see if it swings from negative to positive. And when we take a snapshot, we'll take it over a period of time that's long enough that it's not overcome by one day's news if something is in the news that's negative about the city, for example. However, I think the ultimate result is not in what our social media management tool tells us, but it's in whether businesses choose to move here, people choose to make their homes and families live here, and whether people feel a sense of pride and a willingness to invest in the city. That's what we really want to get to. It's very hard to draw a straight line from something like this to that ultimate result. But I do think that you need to do something like this to get to that ultimate result. If it feels like a squishy answer, it's because it is. But I do think this will be effective for the city.
No, thank you. I think that's a very good answer. I mean, if anybody looks at Lowell, the reason why Lowell is so successful because of its partnerships. And I want to thank you as a university representative, the city, and the Lowell Plan, the group of business people who've come together to make this happen. This is why Lowell's is a success and will be a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anytime we talk about the city of Lowell, what's great about our city is truly the partnerships that we have developed and sustained here in our city. The partnership that put this together did a remarkable job. Anytime you come together to promote the city, it's a good day. It's a very good advertising strategy, bringing the positive things of this city. I really wish that we could have owned our own billboard. There must be a perimeter of land that the city owns that we could have put our own billboard and advertised all year long. That would have been tremendous. I'm just very thrilled. When you talk about the TV and such, every time some incident happens, the media comes down here. I wish the media would come down here and do a zip trip and focus on the city of Lowell like they go doing zip trips of other communities. I wish we could write a letter to the station that does these and have these people come here, and that would be our free advertising and promote our city as well. So thank you and congratulations to all the partners. It's a good day when we promote our city because there is a lot to like about Lowell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Council Martin.
Thank you. I hesitate to speak because I don't want to be repetitive, but I think it's important to say say thank you. I think the efforts of the university here enable these dollars to go a lot further than they otherwise would. So I know we're appreciative of that, appreciative of the efforts of the Lowell Plan and those that have contributed to funding this. So as Bryce said, it's difficult to measure success sometimes, but it's a good first step. So I'm excited to see it happen, and we'll see what happens. So thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Council. Mr. Manager.
There is one person that I have to single out, because this joint marketing campaign would not have come to fruition if it wasn't for Marty Meehan. He made sure that UMass Lowell contributed what they did, and we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him. So I thank him very much for his support, because he loves Lowell. He may not be here, but he loves it more than any city in the nation. So thank you, Marty.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Council Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I will join with everybody else in saying I think this is a great plan as well. You showed us the pie, the budget breakdown with the pie, and I think it was, what, 32% was for billboards, something like that?
Yes.
So how many billboards would that be, and what would be, how long would the billboards stay up? And what would be the radius for the billboards? Would it just be, 30-mile radius, or have you
Sure.
got any more information regarding that?
Yes, I can tell you a little bit more about the billboards. I actually have a contract in my inbox right now that has all the specific details, but I can tell you that billboards are very expensive. I'll preface what I'm about to say by saying that. What that amount of money is going to get us is 2 major billboards at a time for 1 month each, and then a number of ancillary, what they call posters, but they're the billboards you see inside the city as opposed to along the freeway. And we'll have two major freeway billboards. They'll be digital, incidentally, which allows us to change the ad whenever we want, as opposed to having a new vinyl constructed every time we want to change it. Something neat we could do, if we want to catch people when they're on their way home to dinner, we can run This Is How We Dine. If it's the weekend and we've got a hockey game, we can put This Is How We Play Hockey. We can be opportunistic that way with the timing of our creative. So 1 billboard, but it can give us a multiple amount of messages. Now, 2 billboards doesn't sound like a lot, but when you look at the dynamics that Clear Channel has to measure the number of impressions that's created, you've all driven in Boston Metro traffic. We're talking over 10 million impressions from the billboard aspect of this campaign. People are absolutely going to see them. One of the reasons I wanted digital boards is because every time they change, your eye is drawn to them. I notice those more when I drive by them. I bet you do as well. So we'll be on 495, 93. Once I get into my inbox and actually look at that, tell you exactly where we're going to be, but Clear Channel had very clear instructions. And I'm still working with Splash Media, which owns the billboards where the city has credits, to see when they can make those available to us, and we will happily use up all the time that we're allotted on those billboards to promote this campaign.
So when you say 2 billboards for a month duration of time, does that mean that the whole budget would be for 4 billboards for 4 months, basically? Is that?
Yeah, but they'll move around. So we'll be on this billboard this month and then a different billboard the next month. So we're catching a different traffic pattern.
Yeah.
People coming and going from different kinds of communities.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Any further questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Thank you. I see a representative from UMass Lowell, Jim Cook, the Lowell plan. I concur with my comments. Mr. Manager, it was about a year ago that we met at the O'Connor residence, and well over 100, all members of the city council were there to discuss a strategy. And I just think this is, I think it's exciting. I think it's clever. I think it's modern. And I think it's cost effective when we have limited resources. We pool them together and get the best bang for the buck. I'm looking forward to seeing those billboards. But I think it's forward thinking. And I think that's, as we struggle for years and years on how do we reach the greatest audience for what Lowell has to do. And this shows it. I'm pretty excited to see that we have the motto back. There's a lot to like about Lowell, because I always thought it was a catchy phrase. So with that, I know that the Lowell plan will be highlighting this at their breakfast sometime soon, at the end of the month. So feel free to join the breakfast to get more information. As this rolls out, I'm sure we'll get more updates from the manager. So further comments? We have more motion responses, but I'll entertain this as a report of progress and placed on file by Council Kennedy, second by Council Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. We're going to recess from the motion responses because we have public hearings, but thank you for all those in attendance that have participated, joined, and put a lot of good hard work and effort into this. We look forward to seeing the campaign. Well, it's already started, but we look forward to seeing more. All right. With that, we'll go right into the public hearing. Yeah. So we have a number of public hearings that have been advertised for 7 p.m. It's a little after 7:15. First item we have under general public hearings. This is it's a vote to approve the complete streets policy. We already opened this. That's the next one. Excuse me. So this is to vote approve the complete street policy. That's been read once. I think I'm just going to read it. Second reading. We'll just read it because it's not. Well, actually, it is pretty lengthy. But motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, the motion carried. But the second reading is by title. In City Council is a vote to approve and adopt the City of Lowell Complete Streets Policy. We will now open up this portion of the public hearing for anyone that is wishing to speak in favor of this policy. In favor. Mr. Coughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Kevin Coughlin. I'm the Deputy Director of the DPD here in the city. On July 28th, before the Council Subcommittee on Transportation, the DPD, the traffic engineer, and the city engineer presented the complete streets policy and explained the benefits and privileges that it offered to the city. This policy, if approved, will allow the city to achieve a complete streets certified status. Those Massachusetts cities who attain this status will be allowed to apply for three amounts of funds: $50 million in transportation bond monies, $12.5 million in capital monies, and $5 million annually for planning and other purposes. Most of our processes for city planning have already been brought into alignment with these complete street principles. These concepts allow taking all segments of our residents into consideration, not just any one mode of transportation. In addition, there was a wide range of participation of partners in planning and preparing this policy for its final version. These include the Lowell Police Department, the Lowell Health Department, Lowell Community Health Center, Lowell General Hospital through the Greater Lowell Health Alliance, UMass Lowell, Middlesex Community College, Lowell Public Schools, Lowell Regional Transit Authority, excuse me, the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, the Lowell Bicycle Coalition, and many Lowell residents. The complete streets concept and processes are promoted by the Mass DOT and other professional transportation planners. We respectfully request the council vote affirmatively on the recommendation of the Transportation Subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coughlin. Questions for Mr. Coughlin before he sits down? Sure, there may be some that arise, but thank you. Continue with the public hearing. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else in favor? Good evening, Mr. Howell.
Good evening. My name is Richard Howe, 130 Westview Road. I would urge you to not only adopt it, but to implement it aggressively, particularly those parts that make the city more walkable and easier to walk. And if I may just tie it back into this excellent marketing campaign, one of the things I like about this is it's very broad, and I think that's the beauty of Lowell, is that when you scrutinize the city in detail, it's full of fascinating things. Every street, every neighborhood has things that catch your attention, but they only catch your attention when you're walking around looking at them, not when you're trying to dodge other cars when you're driving. And so I think by making the city more walkable, you're also going to do a better job of marketing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howe, and we thank you for your service with all of your walking tours. Upwards of 126 last weekend? 129. And they're all eating downtown. Thank you. Wishing to speak in favor?
Yes. Hi, I'm Danielle Maccheroni, the Energy and Environmental Planner with the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments. We're here to support the policy for the transportation benefits, health benefits, and the environmental benefits. We also have one of our youth here who we recently worked with on a photo project of transportation barriers in Lowell for healthy transportation, and he was just going to explain a little bit about what they found and why they support it as well.
Hello, I'm Nate Polgreen of Troop 3 Lowell, and we teamed up with the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments to identify healthy barriers to healthy transportation, which includes walking, running, and biking, stuff of that nature. And we identified a lot of problems with sidewalks and a lot of other things that people use to transport healthily. And that includes sidewalks that they lack curbs, so people just drive over them, and it's unsafe for the pedestrians that go near there because they could get hit as someone cuts the curb. There's a lot of cracks in sidewalks that make it hard for you to ride your bike, and there are a lot of shrubs and greenery taking over sidewalks, making it hard for bikes and walkers to traverse them. In addition, there is poor drainage in streets and on sidewalks, so puddles form, and that prevents people from traveling. And also, there are problems with crosswalks, so when they're not clearly labeled, it's hard for people to know when it's safe to cross the road. And I believe that we need this law so that people can get around in a more healthy way, so that we can improve the standard of living in our city. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you, Nate. We appreciate that. Mr. Manager, did you get that list from Nate? That'll cut our council meetings in half. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
I'm Paul Marion, Executive Director of Community Relations at the university. I'm also a resident, live at 44 Highland Street. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, councilors. On behalf of Chancellor Maloney and the administration at the university, I want to register our support for this policy. We work very hard to implement progressive transportation policies on campus. We want to see a seamless experience for everybody in the city, our students and the residents. So we support this strongly. And I'll bring up one of my colleagues who's been intimately involved to say a little bit more.
Thank you. My name is Rory O'Mahony. I'm with UMass Lowell Transportation and Parking Department. Listening to early agenda items, one of the main takeaways was the level of partnership between the university and the city. And this is something that we certainly see as being to the forefront of the transportation infrastructure and transportation planning work that's going on over the last number of years. If you look just back over the last 12 months, the amount of work that we've both done together, I think, is phenomenal. If we're looking at the Tiger application that was submitted for the canal bridges, working together to better coordinate with the Lowell Regional Transit Authority, we see the Complete Streets policy as the next feasible step in implementing real transportation improvements within the city. We're fully aware of the impact that our transportation demand has on the city. We want to do everything we can to offer real alternatives to driving alone. We have an aggressive transportation demand management policy at the university, and providing more opportunities for people to get around in sustainable modes of transportation, talking about walking, biking, transit. That's what we're focused on, and we really want to work closely with the city to implement that. We'd encourage the City Council to adopt this policy. As the Assistant City Manager for the DPD, Kevin, had mentioned, there's a lot of associated good with this policy in terms of funding, in terms of alignment with state DOT policy, so there is a lot of potential there as well. Moving forward, I think it's going to be extremely important to the university and the city to work together in looking at ways to get more of our students downtown, in pursuing the idea of a college town, looking on campus and movements between our different campus locations. The Pawtucket Street corridor is key to our continued expansion, and we see a Complete Streets policy as playing a big role in enhancing that expansion both for the city and the university. Thank you.
We thank you as well. Councilor Marcia?
Could he say that again? Because he had the greatest accent I ever heard in my life. That was wonderful. I know everybody's thinking that. I just had to say it.
Councilor, don't you have some questions for him? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm here in support of this complete street policies. All of you, by voting for this, you saying you agreeing with a lot of us that all Lowell residents should have a safe and complete street that safely connect them to where they want to go or want to be, either by foot, bicycle, bus or car. And I second Dick Howard Jr. that after you vote for this, that you firmly implement it, because it's certainly going to benefit our community, and that advertisements speak for itself, really. And so thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you very much.
Nice to see you, Council Newman. Again, welcome back to the chamber. We thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Hi, I'm Judith Durant. I live on Viola Street here in Lowell, and I would like to urge you to adopt especially the walkability part of this plan. I'm a sometimes volunteer and instructor at the American Textile History Museum. We have a world-class museum right here in Lowell that is a very short distance from the train station, but not only is it unappealing to think about walking from the train station to the museum, it's also quite frightening. So walkability has a lot more, it involves a lot more than sidewalks. There are sidewalks now available, but I'm afraid to drive through that intersection, never mind walk. People, you know, you can go left on red here, and not everywhere, but everyone goes left on red everywhere there. Anyway, a few trees would help, slowing down of traffic and, you know, clear access, and it will help ultimately partner with the other plan talked about earlier tonight and bring more people to Lowell. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. City Council, my name is Jay Mason. I reside at 77 Tyler Park. I'm a local architect. I'm also the chair of the Green Building Commission. I'd like to applaud the work that the city has done recently in organizing our downtown in a more effective and manageable way with the location, with the traffic patterns that have been established. I find personally it's worked very well for my own use. And I, as chair of the Green Building Commission, I'd like to support the planning that's going on now and advocate that we support this and implement as quickly as we can. I think working with the university is a huge plus as well. There's collateral benefit there. I think that this is a win-win for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mason.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mindy Doppler-Nelson, and I'm a Lowell resident and an obesity researcher. And these are some pictures that I thought were worth passing around that shows how much we really need this complete streets policy in Lowell. With the information that was shared by the Boy Scouts troop, there are pictures that document all the cracks in the sidewalk, the condition of the sidewalk, the obstructions on the sidewalks for pedestrians. There are the pictures of the vegetation, the puddles. I myself noticed when I was walking down John Street today that I was trying to get to Boarding House Park and I could not see the lights that were indicating that it was safe for me to walk because they're off kilter by about 45 degrees. So not even visible to a pedestrian like myself. And it wasn't because of my height. I was walking with a taller person. I am also one of the founding members of the Lowell Bicycle Coalition. So making the streets safe for bicycles is something that I am actually very much in favor of because of many reasons, not just because I'm an avid cyclist, but also because it's a great way for people to improve the quality of their life, improve the air quality. We have very good air quality here, but why should people be breathing in car fumes if less people were in cars and either on mass transit, walking, or bicycling? It would make it so people wouldn't be breathing as much of the toxic fumes, and it would reduce traffic, which I can't think anybody would oppose that. And it would also take care of some of the parking issues that people have complained about. And then this also shows the crosswalks. When Mass Bike did some surveys, of which I assisted with, we discovered that the crosswalks were not aligned with the buttons to push to get the permission to cross. In some cases, they were, like where Nick is, would be the crosswalk, and where I am would be the button. And so people would either push the button and want to cross not in the crosswalk, or they'd stand by the crosswalk without a button to push. So those are the kinds of things as well that I think could be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Sidney Ling, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Lowell Community Health Center as one of the partners for this policy. I'm here to speak in support of the policies or about the transportation itself, because its impact physical activity, air quality, traffic injury and death, impact social cohesion, and perhaps more importantly, its impact the access opportunity, our ability to go to jobs, healthcare, grocery stores, to family, to parks and other places, and also the other benefits that a lot of folks before me has mentioned. This policy came together with a lot of partners, especially those who spend their time from the residents and met to draft this policy. And also just to mention also that the Department of Public Health is one of our partners in helping shape this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lang.
Good evening. My name is DJ Wilson. I'm the Public Health Liaison at Mass Municipal Association, and one of my job duties is to help cities and towns implement this policy. So I have here a list of cities and towns around the state that have done so, and I'm happy to pass it out to the City Council. So we're up to 19 cities and towns across the state that have put this in place, and that adds up to about 20% of the state's population. In addition to this, Malden is undertaking the same process that you are going through right now, and I am a citizen of Malden. And one thing that's interesting that I've seen in Malden is that, like Lowell, we're a densely populated city. We have a lot more cars than we used to. People have to get around on bikes and on feet because they don't have cars. But it does make for an interesting mix of modal transportation modes on those streets. And so what we've come to understand through Complete Streets is that in densely populated cities such as Lowell and Malden, that what really has to happen is you can't get bigger. There's no place to put new streets. There's no place to widen streets, but we have to get better at it. So taking into account bikes, public transportation, cars, and pedestrians all at the same time is really the way to go in the 21st century. So I applaud Lowell for taking this under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support of this policy? Anyone else? Seeing none, we will now close this portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Opposition. Seeing none, we will close that portion of the public hearing as well. Questions? Councilor Mercier?
No, move approval.
Move to approve by Councilor Mercier, second by Councilor Kennedy. Further discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Belanger.
Thank you. One quick question, if I may, through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, how far away is the city of Lowell from being certified to be eligible for funds at this point?
Mr. Manager?
Nick, could you, Mr. Bassanetto, would you just answer that question for the councilor?
We're actually a little bit ahead of the curve on this because Mass DOT has yet to finalize the rules on how they're going the application. So we're actually, by doing this now, we're going to be ready for when Mass DOT finally comes together with the application, and that should happen early this fall. So once that, we'll be right in front of the line, ready to go.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion, questions? Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call.
Councilor Mercier.
Yes.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Councilor Rourke.
Yes.
Councilor Samaras.
Yes.
Councilor Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
It's 9 yeas.
9 yeas. Motion passes. Unanimous support. Policy is adopted. We thank each and every one of you for all your hard work, contributions. We look forward to implementing this. Another good step forward for the city. So, again, Round of applause for those that work.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may follow up, if it's, I'd like to request that you send a letter of appreciation to the Boy Scout troop who was out there in the field, walking the streets. I want to know their actions are very appreciated here. Thank you.
Thank you. We see the troop leader here. Thank you for taking time out. Thank you for participating in this important project. Council will make sure that happens. If we could get the name and address of the organization so we can send that out.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay, we're moving on to the next item on the agenda. We have, we're still on the public hearings, and we still have a holdover from last week. So we're gonna proceed with the utility public hearing as it has been advertised. We have 5 of them. Entertain a motion to
Take all 5 together.
to take all these together by Council Mercia.
Yes.
Seconded by Council Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. We will open the public hearing for all of these. I will read all of the purposes individually. So motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed. That motion carries. 5 public hearings, all by National Grid and Verizon New England. Yes. So we now open up this portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in favor of the following 5 requests. First is a request for a relocation of 1 pole on Ursula Street. We have a request for installation of 1 pole, strut guy, and anchor on Grand Street. We have a request for installation of 1 pole and anchor on East Merrimack Street. We have a request for installation of 30 feet, plus or minus, of secondary conduit at the corner of Bartlett and Fayette Streets. And, I missed the first one, excuse me. This was a request for installation of 1 pole on Willie Street. So those 5 requests: Willie, Ursula, Grand, East Merrimack, Bartlett, and Fayette Street. Is there anyone wishing? We will now open up this portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in favor. In favor, name and address, please.
Hi, my name's Dave Aguirre, and I'm representing National Grid. National Grid is asking for permission to install poles and conduits on said locations.
Thank you, Mr. Aguirre. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor, seeing none. Anyone wishing to? We'll now open up this portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Opposition? On which street, sir?
Willie Street.
Willie Street, yes, please come forward.
My name's Honorable Fontanez. I own the property where they want to put the pole. I'm against it because it's right in front of my house. I look out my window, and there it is. I took some pictures on my phone, unfortunately, but there's a pole right next to it, which has 3 transformers. One just above that has 1. If you cross the street Broadway onto the other side of Willie Street, there's another pole that has 3, and another one that has 1. On Broadway Street next to Anton's, there's another one that has 3 transformers. I think there's probably another place that could put this pole. It would be a definite eyesore for me, and I think it's going to bring down the property value on my house. Not that it's that high, because where it's at, but I definitely oppose of it. I think there's another place they could put it, or put another pole in somewhere else.
Mr. Aguirre, could you please come up? Is there...
It's going to be tough to relocate, but we can work with him to find out where would be a good spot to put the pole. We'd be more than glad to do that. We can meet you out there and do that. Yeah.
Where it is, it's right there.
Yep, okay, so you will reach out to this gentleman. I'm sorry, your first name was Al.
My name's Annabelle.
Could you go to the mic?
Annabelle Fontanez.
Annabelle Fontanez, you get that, Mr. Clerk, now? Yep. Okay, and you'll exchange information. What is the wish of the body? Do you want to delay this subject to that meeting to take place?
Could we table this, the Willie Street one, until we have time to meet with the customer and come up with a better place to put the pole?
Yes, absolutely. Council Leahy, motion to delay Willie Street.
Yes, but I had a comment on the other ones, too.
Okay, motion by Council Leahy, seconded by Councilor Kennedy to delay Willie Street till homeowner and Verizon get a chance to meet. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. Council Leahy?
Sure. I had a question.
Or can we just hold up? Can we just close the public hearing for anyone? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to any of these items? In opposition? In opposition? Seeing none, we will close that portion of the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Council Leahy.
Sure. I guess, well, my question was, so we're going to push Willie Street off. The other ones also, I wanted to know if there was a will to delay these until the next meeting, because quite frankly, we haven't seen much movement in the city on these double poles. Last week, there wasn't anybody here to speak on this, well, last meeting, and I didn't know if we'd get some movement on double poles if we delay some of these poles. Because quite frankly, there's a number of poles that have been promised to be pulled out, and I think it's been about a year since we saw representatives.
Mr. Aguilar, can you give us an update on these double poles? We have made some progress from where we were, but there's still, more poles keep going in, and we continue to see more double poles. So with that, that's the frustration that we have here in the city. We delayed, nobody was here 2 weeks ago, and the concern was, is there a plan? Can we get back on track?
There absolutely is a plan. It's a concern, especially because I come to these meetings all the time. But we'd be glad to have a representative of National Grid meet with you or the city manager. And
Well, I mean, we've been doing this I don't mean to interrupt, but we've been doing this for about 3 years now, and there's certain poles that are just like Fruit Street, Mariner Street, a couple on Andover Street, that those 4 poles have about probably 3 years old now, that we've been asking to pull out.
Would you say Fruit
And they're
Street?
just eyesores. And then another question I had was, some of these poles get marked with an X and an arrow.
A white arrow, yeah.
So what does that mean? I mean, they come in, they mark the telephone poles in front of someone's home, and it's marked for years. And it's kind of an eyesore because, people appreciate, like this gentleman that came down, takes care of his home, and then, it's an eyesore for...
No, you're right. You're right.
And, we've been asking for the last 2 years to get some progress on this. And I guess, the reports we get the reports and they tell us the poles are being pulled out, but I don't physically see some of them coming out, so.
If you give us a list of the poles that are of particular concern, I'm sure we'll make an effort to get those out. And like I said, we can have a group, the lady that handles the business section for Lowell, come down and meet you, and we're taking poles out. We'll take out the poles that you want out.
Well, I know you take the ones out that we request, but it's not our jobs to drive around as councilors.
no,
and point.
you're right.
You know what I mean?
You're
So
right. No,
we
you're
get a
right.
little frustrated at that. We make the motion, we support it, and we try to support the people that work in the city, but, there's only so much we can do as far as pointing out poles that obviously need to come out, so.
Sure.
So, Mr. Aguilar, at one point in time, I'm not sure who develops the inventory and who tracks it, but I think it would be helpful. Is that the city, Mr. Manager, or is it we do all drive around, and when we see them, sure, we call them in, but there should be a plan.
Absolutely.
So some poles aren't taken out because we request them, and then some sit there for months and months. Mr. Manager, and then...
We deal with the Susan Griffin at National Grid relative to these double poles and other issues relative to National Grid. So why don't we reach out to her and have her here at the next meeting to address the double pole issues, what progress they've made, and answer questions on the priority ones that we have.
And that would include Verizon also? Because I mean, you don't, to be fair, one pole could be National Grid, next one's Verizon.
Like National owns.
Kind of a combination.
National owns all the poles.
In Lowell, we're the custodian of all the poles in Lowell.
Okay. Sure.
So with Susan Griffin, we'll be able to address specific issues also.
Okay.
So we'll get her in for the next meeting.
And can we get a report beforehand to know how many polls there are, how many doubles there are, and what the plan is to take? I think that'd be helpful in advance, too.
Sure.
Council Marcia, then we get Council Belanger, then Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before us this evening for the public hearings, we have 5. We're removing 1 because I sympathize with this gentleman. I wouldn't want a pole in front of my, obstructing my quality of life, my view. So I completely agree with that gentleman. I will not support it if you can't find a way to move that pole, be that as it may. I don't want to shoot the messenger. I would suggest that we don't delay the other 4, contingent upon probably people need services, and I don't want to stop them from getting the services. Although I do sense the frustration of Councilor Leahy. We are frustrated, and we did have an agreement with National Grid that they should appear before this council quarterly to show us where the progress was being made, and I don't see them coming back here. I'm not trying to give you the Dickens, but I'm really
You're giving it to
frustrated.
them.
Yeah, but I'm frustrated with that. So if we could reach out to Susan from National Grid and remind her that we're waiting for her. How many poles has been removed since we last seen her? I sense that frustration, but I don't think it's at the, to hurt someone that is waiting for electrical service on the other 4. So I wouldn't support taking that out of there, but I will support this man right here. Thank you.
People at National Grid should know that they're going to get the Dickens when they come here at public hearings. Council Belanger, then Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do agree, I concur with Councilor Mercia. Councilor Leahy's been working very diligent on this issue for some period of time, and we don't seem to be getting the response I think he and all of us think we should be getting at this point. But I do have a concern, because I did receive a call today from the resident on Ursula Street, who has new construction going on, and this utility pole is crucial to them getting utilities to that new structure. So I don't want to hold everything back. At the same time, they need to be held accountable for these poles, and I await a response as anxious as my colleagues. So I did like to push the other 4 ahead, though. Thank you.
Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I share Council Leahy's concerns, and I think the city manager has a good idea by having the representative from National Grid come in. I can recall at least 2 other times when there's been representatives that have come in before this council to address the pole issue, and I think that in preparation for them coming before this council, the number of polls seems to drop pretty significantly. And so, maybe what we need to do is have them in more often or something like that. But I think particularly the last time that they came in, there was a very significant drop in the number of polls at that time. But it was more than just one person. I think it's necessary to also have somebody from Comcast or somebody as well, because there's always an issue of why is there a double pole and who's holding the whole thing up. And so it ends up, my recollection was that there were 2 people, 2 representatives on the 2 times that we did that. So it's, okay. And aside from that, I guess, I think it's a good idea to table or to postpone Willie Street, and I would move approval on the other 4 if there's no objection for everybody else, just so that we can move things forward. So that would be a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion made by Council Kennedy, seconded by Council Leahy. Further discussion? Council Martin?
There's also another one that we had left over from last week.
Yes, we were going to dispose of these
Okay,
5,
all right.
Councilor, and then go back to there's 2 items of unfinished business. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of Council Kennedy's motion signify by saying aye. In the opposed, that motion carries. Motion to approve and send to the wire inspector the other 4.
Yes.
By Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Milanazzo. Roll call.
Oh, this is from last week.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milanazzo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
No.
Counsel Barton?
Yes.
8 yeas.
8 yeas. 1 nay, motion approved.
Okay, thank you.
So if you could get the exchange information, Mr. Aguilar, that would be good. Oh, you already did. All right, thank you. So we're going to go to unfinished business. We have unfinished business. We have an ordinance to amend 266-85, parking prohibited during certain hours. This has to go to a public hearing. On this, Mr. Manager, you want to give an explanation? This is an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to parking prohibited during certain hours. This goes to a public hearing on August 25th. Mr. Manager?
Yes, at the request of the City Council, we reached out to the developer of this parcel, and they have agreed to provide 6 designated spaces that will be set aside for the residents of Nottingham Street to park their vehicles during the parking ban time of 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So we feel that that's adequate to service the residents during that period of time, so that's good news for this development and the residents.
Motion to send to a public hearing by Council Martin, seconded by Council Mercia. All those in favor, on August 25th, all those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion passes. Still under unfinished business. This was held over from 2 weeks ago. This is a petition from National Grid and Verizon New England. This is the request for relocation of 2 poles at Schaefer Street. We already held a hearing, so entertain a motion to refer this to the wire inspector for report and recommendation.
Yes.
By Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. Going to the wire inspector. That completes unfinished business and our general public hearings. We will now revert to move on to the agenda. This is 6.1. We're back into motion responses. We'll go through, this is A through T. A through T, we already did T. Excuse me, so we'll begin by questions on motion response A, evaluate intersection of Mammoth Road and West Meadow Road. Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to thank Traffic Engineer Nick Bozzanotto. He did a tremendous job in this motion response, and it's actually a lot better than I would anticipate. I actually requested, I know this is going to be well-received news for the neighborhood group at Pawtucketville, and he has agreed to come to the next neighborhood group meeting in Pawtucketville to give an explanation of his findings and what work is going to be completed, which will be a big plus for that intersection. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on motion response A. Seeing none, we'll move on to motion response B, parking lot paving regulations. Seeing none, we'll move on to motion response C, installation of sidewalk on Pine Street. Comments, questions? Seeing none, moving on to motion response D, repairs to Varnum Avenue. We see that repairs have been made to those areas. Thank you. Councilor Leahy?
Yeah, I just want to say, so I drove that and I saw that we fixed the crack up there. It's appreciated because I think that could have turned into something worse, obviously, over the years. It just keeps spreading and spreading. Having a hole in the road is never good. So thank you for addressing the issue.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Moving on to motion, any other questions on motion response D? Moving on to motion response E, acceptance of Berry Road. Moving on to motion response F, contact National Grid to repave section of Westford Street. Moving on to motion response G, recreate Family Fair Day. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you. I just want to thank the city manager for the report. Regarding Family Day, the work that's being done now at LaLashia Park for the 4th of July is terrific. Just that Family Day that was at one time up at the river was almost an all-day affair, and it had a lot of free entertainment for many of our families that literally can't afford to go away during the 4th of July holidays. I just want to see that the LaLasha Park Day is enhanced more so. One of the things that they used to do was bring in the Air Force Band and other bands of that like, and maybe that can happen for some of the future Fourth of July festivities. It's just a good family day, and it should be something that's reasonably priced for citizens of Lowell. But what's happening right now is very good. I just want to see it expanded. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion on motion response G. Seeing none, we move on to motion response H. Downtown vacancies and leasing activities. Councilor Marcia?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In our packet, we did get a detailed report on the downtown vacancies and the leasing activities. Whoever put this together did a tremendous job talking about every single unit that's vacant and how they're working diligently to try to, with the broker, to offer support and direct leads and working with the property owners. And, you know, it troubles me when I go through the downtown and see all the empty spaces, office spaces, storefront vacancies. It's troublesome when we have such a vigorous campaign going on to come to Lowell, and then they're going to see all these empty spaces. But it's not like we're not trying. I can see that we're vigorously out there from the planning department offering whatever we can to make it happen. I just want people to know that. It's not like we're just sitting here twiddling our thumbs and know that every storefront is empty and we're not doing anything about it. This report clearly states that people are working very, very hard to make that happen. From Ray Robinson's to the Chantilly Place to the Empire Beauty School, I mean, it's so detailed, and talking to the owners, they're trying to broker things, you know, work and help any way that they can. The city is really going all out trying to help. I just don't know what the answer is. I really, truly don't. But I wanted to just say that, to say that we're doing the best we can, and that it was a very detailed, well put together, very informative piece of reporting. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Council. Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the manager for the report, too. I thought it was a good report. I've had several conversations with the manager over the past several weeks about this type of thing, and I think that, you know, I think that sometimes it gets frustrating for us. I think we take 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards sometimes, but as long as we're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards, we're still going forward, just slowly but surely. And I think it is going to be a slowly but surely process in the Central Business District until we can put a couple of other things together. I do think that, you know, if we can bring some more jobs into the city and have more people employed near the downtown area, you know, that would be helpful. I think this campaign that we spoke about earlier tonight will be helpful. But overall, I just wanted to say that I do think that a report like this is very good for the city council to have, and I'd like to be sure to make sure that we get it periodically, say every 6 months or so. And I think, you know, this is a detailed report, but to update this report shouldn't be all that bad. So if we can get something like this every 6 months, I think it keeps the city council apprised of just what's going on downtown.
Thank you, Council. Further, Councilman Milazzo, then Mr. Manager.
Thank you. I too want to thank the administration. This was a very detailed report, and there's a lot of good news in this report as well. I mean, if you look at the property at 166, 174 Central Street, 46,000 square feet being renovated as an adult daycare facility. Again, they're going to be employing a lot of people in that facility that will be taking advantage of restaurants and coffee shops downtown. 226 Central Street recently converted to 4 residential condo units. 3 are currently for sale. And then, more importantly, the Shallow building, the upper floors were renovated to 47 market rate housing units. So, again, kudos to those that worked on this report. It's a lot of good information, and there is a lot happening in the downtown. So, thank you.
Thank you, Council. Mr. Manager.
Thank you. I'd like to take full credit for the report, but I can't. Allison Lammy from our DPD put it together. She did a great job, but also, rest assured, she knows I'm a pain in the neck when it comes to downtown Lowell. We stay right on top the Economic Development Department. We have walking tours every week where we meet with the property owners, look at their properties, see what we can do to help them out to attract tenants, get some facade money for improvements. So we, rest assured, we continue to work the downtown as hard as can be.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Further questions, comments on this report? Seeing none, we'll move on to motion response I. Motion response tracking.
Your Honor.
Council Leahy.
Yeah. Again, I just want to say thank you, especially to Rodney Collin, who puts this together. You know, it's a color-coded report. It gives us the status on all our motions, and along with the previous one, the same amount of detail that goes into it. And so these reports that come from both offices are much appreciated. It makes our job that much easier. So thank you for the effort that goes into these.
Thank you, Councilor. Further questions, comments on motion response I? Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you. I would like to move that we adopt the city manager's recommendation on this, which is that they draft an email agreeing to the principles and requesting that the City of Lowell join the Next Century Cities Initiative.
Okay, so Councilor Samaras, did you have something on I? No. Okay, so moving on to J. So motion on Next Step Cities, Councilor Kennedy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, motion by Councilor Kennedy, seconded by Councilor Belanger, that we adopt the city's recommendation, the city manager's recommendation. Discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. Further questions, comments on Next Step Cities, motion response J. Moving on to motion response K, request delegation to override video of cuts to Mass Cultural Council. Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott. City Manager Murphy, could you send a letter of thank you to the state delegation for overriding Governor Baker's budget cut for the Mass Cultural Council? I think the addition of these funds will greatly help the art people in the city of Lowell. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Councilor. All those, I guess in the form of a motion by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Rourke, that have the manager send a letter to the delegation. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Moving on to motion response L, utility pole on Highland Ave, excuse me. Moving on to motion response M, update on conventions and major events within the city. Questions, comments? Council Molinazzo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, thank you, Mr. Manager, for the report. And Case does coordinate with all of the entities listed here, which is very good, bringing people and visitors into the city. My question, which is really related, has to do with highway signage. We're still actually advertising museums that have closed. So I just don't know if it's our responsibility. Revolving Museum, as an example, is still advertises exit 30, whatever. And again, I just bring it to your attention because I just think it's something that, again, if I was a visitor from, say, Connecticut looking for the Revolving Museum, came into downtown Lowell, and be disappointed that it was closed because this sign really shouldn't be up. So again, I just bring that up as a related matter to bringing convention and visitors into the city. Thank you.
It's a good point, Councilor. Mr. Manager, we're going to contact Mass Highway. Okay. Further comments on motion response M? Seeing none, we'll move on to motion response N. Establish historic trail throughout downtown. Oh, we have a registered speaker, Councilor Leahy, and then, okay, Councilor Leahy? What do you want to
I just want to say the report was good. Talks about how several stakeholders got together to work on this report, national parks and Cool and the DPD. I just would like to ask that we still try to look into some sort of a painted trail or a brick trail or something, if we can find money to do a brick trail, or if we could do some sort of a heavy painted line. that can be incorporated at some point when we're finalizing the tour. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Mr. Clerk.
Registered Speaker Patrick Farmer.
Mr. Farmer here? No. Okay. Further comments then on motion response N? Seeing none, we'll move on to motion response O. Bus lane on Merrimack Street. Comments, questions? Seeing none, move on to motion response P. We have a registered speaker. Mr. Clerk?
Armin Hebert.
Mr. Hebert?
Hi, Armin Hebert, 499 Wilder Street, Lowell. Very pleased with the council for their vote on this at the last meeting, a couple of meetings ago. I received a copy of something that I hope you all got on the explanation of why this can't pass. Well, not very happy with that. I take exception to this because I'm not a lawyer, I'm a construction worker. But this letter that is written out by the city solicitor cites no precedent. I mean, I've got stuff right here I'd like to pass out to the council that is legal documents that states what the ordinance was back in '88. Now, that's one thing of my thing. I'm just really teed off because I don't think the work was done on this. Now, I got an article right here, Boston Globe. Councilors can pass that around on hiring goals. Okay, those are things that are out there. Now, the solicitor says that it's been held up by courts and this and that. Well, I think Boston is our capital of the state, if I'm right. So they got some of the biggest contractors out there. Turner Construction's mentioned in the article and all that. It's like, wait a second. If they're getting away with it in Boston, how can it be unconstitutional? All right, that's what it states here. It's unconstitutional. Another thing, Mr. Mayor, to the manager, the Lowell plan, you made a great speech, very well spoken, but one thing you said in there was live, work. Well, it's all right, I guess, if you work in the city, but you can't live in it. Pretty simple, right? We gotta get these jobs. I work in the city. You know what? I'm down here fighting for other people. I work in the city. You can come up and see me any day. Riverside and University Ave. I'm right up there. I got a good paying job. All right? Councilors, you don't make that much money as councilors. It's not my fault. But you know what? City manager, assistant city manager, everybody else that works for the city makes a good living in the city. I hope they all live in the city, but maybe they don't because they don't have to. Right? We got a lot of things going on in this city that we can basically not say to our constituents, this is a great thing to have this thing, because now the people can see who supports the people of Lowell and who doesn't. Maybe it's time for changes, because we need jobs in Lowell. A lot of construction. I hear a lot of stuff about doing sidewalks, streets over, the Lowell project, stuff like that. That's all great. I'm working on a job now with 20 guys. I'm the only Lowell resident. So right now, in this room here, you guys probably wouldn't have a job because I'd outwork you. All right? I'm telling you that right now. You have got to look into this more. We need to see a precedent. I'm not a lawyer. There's some lawyers on this council. I'm going to go in the next room, write up a document, say that my grandparents or my great-grandparents own Lowell, and I want you all out of here. Doesn't make it fact unless I can show proof. By just stating on a piece of paper that it's going to be overruled by a high court, how come it isn't happening in Boston? All right, that's the capital. There's big contractors out there with a lot of money. If they don't want to meet the minimum of 50%, not 33 that states in this contract here, it's 50%. All right? You think a contractor wouldn't turn around and go after the city of Boston to cut down their costs and having to put 50% of Boston residents to work? Our union, I'm here as a union member. I'm not representing the union. I'm representing the people of Lowell. You don't see any other union members here. They're not here, because I don't want them here, because if they're not Lowell residents, it has nothing to do with them. Right now, there's a lot of problems going on in Lowell. I think this is one that we should fix right away. Underage drinking, heroin epidemic, stuff like that, attacks in the street. All right? Corruption in the police department. You want to go there? You know what? I'm not going away. And I will fight this till the end. This is showing me no precedent stating on this letter stating that it's illegal. I want to see something in writing that says, all right, this case went to court and the court ruled on it. Just saying that it did. Doesn't say what case. Lawyers on this committee. Would you take that as an answer? You got the letter like I got it. If you don't question it, there's really a problem. You know, there's the Boston Globe right there. Pass that article around, read it like I did, and believe me, you'll maybe learn something from this. I'm only a construction worker, and I'm a Lowell resident. I've lived here all my life. My father lived here all his life. You know what? I think it's sad that we're losing this economy. Okay? Here's the thing. I got a letter. That's the other thing that's good about this cable TV thing. I got a letter from a business owner that doesn't want to be identified. He asked me to give this to the councilors and the city manager. Okay? He's very upset that we don't have a residency clause because it's hurting the downtown businesses. People can't afford to go down to the downtown businesses and support them because they're working at low-wage jobs out of town, which is costing them money to travel, everything else. We want to build this city. Let's build it right. Let's build it within. All right? I don't understand anything here that says we can't do this because other communities are doing it. If other cities, she mentions it right in the thing, that those communities have it, but they haven't been challenged. Aren't we up for a challenge? We're spending billions of dollars on this courthouse. We got everything. I'll tell you right now, the other thing is, there have been lawyers that contacted me about this, and they said they'd back me 100%. So if I have to go down and pull permits that are being filed for construction projects in the city and put a boycott against them, I'll bring them to court. I tied my union up for 3 years with lawyers because they didn't want to do the things the right way. I don't care. I'm the worst enemy of a lawyer because I'm a laborer who's got a lot of fight in them, and I can read and write, and I can use a computer. So I'm not going away, and I think we should really push this through. Look into it a little harder. You want to get me off your back about this? Show me precedent that says you can't do it. You show me a docket number. Show me a case file. Don't just put on a piece of paper, yeah, it's illegal.
Okay.
That does nothing for me.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Further comments on this? Council Smaras. Council Rourke? And
Thank you. City Manager, to the City Solicitor. I understand the report that you gave us, and what you're doing in this report is protecting us from litigation. With that as a fact, are there incentive plans or other means of dealing with this type of issue where it's not so much developing an ordinance to force construction companies to hire within the city, but can we develop incentive plans or some type of alternative approach to encouraging builders that come into the city to use, we'll say, a certain percentage of Lowell workers?
Mr. Manager?
Yes, Mr. Manager.
Thank you. Yes, there are. And a perfect example of it is if you look at section 1.7 of the RFQ for the Hamilton Canal, it is called the responsible labor practices.
Okay.
And we specifically state that the proposers who propose to use Lowell residents in the workforce, that will be a highly advantageous criteria for that type of proposal, and that will give them more points when it comes to selecting a developer for the Hamilton Canal. Through my former colleague, Marty Walsh, now the mayor of Boston, I went to him and I reached out to one of the union members, or one of the, the stewards in Boston. And I talked to him, I shared with him our language that we have at the RFQ, and he was very impressed with the language in the RFQ, and he agreed with us that we couldn't set basic requirements like 50% or 33%, but this responsible labor practices that we have included in the RFQ are very good tools to use to encourage employment of local residents.
Thank you. I saw that in the report. So you believe that that could be a useful tool to deal with the issue that we're discussing tonight?
Oh, absolutely. If you read the language, it shows that it's more advantageous for a developer to propose using residents of Lowell, and that will make their application that much stronger in considering whether we're going to select them for the Hamilton Canal District.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, this section 1.7, this could be, from this point forward, standard in all RFPs going out for public projects?
Yes.
So that will allow Lowell residents hopefully to gain some employment?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then one question to the auditor. In reading your response, and then, I'm sorry, to the solicitor, and I apologize. In the response, and then in the article of what we did see in the Globe from just in May, and also from the previous ordinance that Lowell did have, is it a state law that you can't do it, or is it just that certain cities and towns have been brought to court, and those towns for certain projects have been told, no, you can't do this for a certain project, or is it statewide, or is it just for specific projects that are put out to bid?
It's more towards the practice. So ordinances that are designed to make those types of requirements, when they have been challenged, they have unilaterally been rejected by the courts, including our own, which was on the books for about 10 years' time.
So Lowell's already been through the process of being taken to court and losing?
That's correct.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. Again, I was pleased to see that language in the RFQ for the Hamilton Canal, but I was just wondering if there was another way that we could develop additional language in future, say, contracts or proposals where if a company set up an apprentice program working with the unions and had Lowell residents apply for that, would that be highly advantageous? Again, I remember years ago we had a step-up program at the Housing Authority where we actually worked with our residents and actually worked with, in that case, I think it was the Painters Union, but we were able to get people to become apprentices and then some went on to become union painters. So again, just something to think about going forward. Again, the percentage number, I guess, was the issue, but whether or not we could actually have within some contracts that they start an apprentice program for Lowell residents might make some sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council Rourke? And then this side, Council Kennedy, Council Belanger.
Just one moment, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. So in the wording of the proposals, can there be language to state not a percentage or a certain number, but can you state certain Lowell residents to be included in the bidding process?
Madam Solicitor? Or Mr. Manager?
Yes, as long as we don't set the quota, but that we encourage them, that it will be more advantageous for them to give us a proposal that includes hiring local residents.
Thank you.
Further elaboration, Madam Solicitor? No?
I was just going to say that these cases really are turning on making it a requirement, a sort of discriminatory practice against those outside, in this case, the city boundaries, or sometimes outside the state. What the language in the RFQ seeks to do is to open the opportunity for the city to weigh any and all types of economic benefit that come to the region as a result of the project, particularly during the construction phase. So it's not a requirement, but it's something that the city is looking to consider when weighing all the proposals.
Council Kennedy, then Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, through you to the manager, I think, or to the city solicitor. So, does Boston have an ordinance? And if they do have an ordinance, why is it that they can have one and we can't? Or does Boston have a policy rather than an ordinance? And that's what we don't have in place, other than with this, the most recent RFQ.
Madam Solicitor.
There are communities that still have these types of ordinances on the books that have not been challenged. If you go to even, say, the city of Cambridge, I think they even note on their website where they had the original language, that the original language was, that there was a challenge of sorts. The solicitor had recommended some new language, and it is still sort of on site in that fashion. That is not unheard of, where communities might have, say, a panhandling ordinance on the books that has not yet been challenged, yet ours has. We're a larger community, but certainly a number of communities that have sought to institute these measures have been challenged. We were one of them, and the results were the same. They're very uniform. In the most recent cases, there were a few recent cases in the federal court. The judge in both of those matters was Judge Zobel, and those were cases that I referred to in 2011 and in 2012, where she found that the communities were unable to establish a legitimate reason for having these types of discriminatory hiring practices, and they were struck down, as ours was, for the very same reason.
Okay, so are you saying that, do you know whether Boston does have an ordinance or not, or are you just unsure at this point?
I'm not exactly clear what form it has taken. Yeah.
Okay. If Council Rourke wanted to make that as a motion, I'd be happy to second it, that we make that be a policy for all projects going forward. It sounds to me like that would be a good idea, and then that would help to ensure that that was included in every RFP or RFQ that went out going forward.
Somebody's got to make it.
Yeah, you can make it. I'll second it.
Okay, then I'll make that as a motion myself, and with Council Rourke second.
Okay, glad we got that straight. Motion by Councilman Kennedy, second by Councilor Rourke. That moving forward, all projects have, that we incorporate that policy into RFP, RFQ. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Roll call on that, because this is important.
Are we still going to hear from this guy again? I think you should be happy, right?
We got,
How deaf I yell too much. No, this is good for you, right?
okay, motion is made and seconded. You want a roll call? Motion by Council?
Yeah, it's important.
Roll call.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
And it's still on this, Council Belanger.
Yeah, I think that's a great motion, by Councilor Kennedy. I think we all share the same sentiment here. We're in the next 5 years, we're about to undergo millions, if not over $1 billion in construction here with the Hamilton Canal and potentially the high school. And it's our duty to keep as much of that money local as we can. And we need to do everything we can to keep that. I mean, if we can include in the policy the language, I'm no attorney, but we're looking for higher local people, women, and minorities. We want inclusive in that too. So if we craft up such a policy that might infringe slightly on the gray area, then so be it. I think it's well worth doing, and I support the motion wholeheartedly. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Just question, Madam Solicitor. There are a number of construction projects that will be essentially 30B bids, but there are millions of dollars of work in the city, and I'm thinking, even soon, the Lord Overpass. UMass Lowell is doing work, as Mr. Hebert referred to. The Judicial Center, which not within our purview. How can we incorporate this policy, while we're not bidding, it's not our money, but certainly the work's going to be done in the city. Mr. Manager?
Yeah, I'm sure you'll see when the Judicial Center is built that they'll have what's known as a project labor agreement. That's usually required. That happened when we did the widening of Route 3 and other projects in the city. So we can encourage our local delegation to make sure that a PLA is involved if it's a state project.
For those state projects, okay, great. Further discussion on this motion, response. Council Kennedy?
If I could, I think that you make a good point, and so maybe it would be a good idea, or I'd like to move that we ask the city manager to maybe give the council a report on how we might be able to encourage other projects that are not within the city scope to adopt the same policy.
Motion by Council Kennedy, seconded by Council Belanger, to request the city manager incorporate whether it's project labor agreements or responsible party policy into all other projects, construction projects in the city. Motion made and seconded. Is there a request for a roll call? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. In the opposed, that motion carries as well. Moving on to a further discussion on residency requirements on public construction jobs. Seeing none, we'll move on to petition response, handicap parking, Laureate Street. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to petition response R, solid waste and recycling, Lowell stat report. Move on to motion response S, Hamilton Canal District RFQ. Mr. Manager, would, before we get into question and answers, what's the wish of the body? We had the manager provide a presentation, or, yeah, the chair would like to recognize the city manager on this Hamilton Canal District, and we have registered speakers. One registered speaker. Yeah, why don't we have the manager, Mr. Manager would like to provide a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Elliott, and through you to the City Council. I'm really excited about this proposal that we're presenting to you this evening for your review and vote of endorsement. We've done a lot of work and rework in this request for qualifications so that we can jumpstart the development at the Hamilton Canal District. I think it's important, though, to just give a little brief history relative to the Hamilton Canal District. In 2008, the form-based zoning code for the Hamilton Canal District was adopted. And that was adopted after numerous charrettes meetings between community members, business owners, business leaders, governmental leaders. And after those meetings, they presented a concept for the Hamilton Canal District. And this is the concept that is before you this evening. And it's a mix of commercial, retail, and residential uses. Now, what happened after they came up with this concept is that a lot of work was done to zone this area according to those uses. But not only was it zoned according to these uses, but permits were secured in order to develop them according to this concept. For example, permits not only had to be received from the City of Lowell, but permits had to be received from the National Park Service and the Department of Environmental Protection, because as you know, there's a lot of construction near the canals and waterways, and therefore DEP was involved. So a lot of work went into this, and it would be hard right now just to turn that all around. We could change the zoning very quickly, but as far as the permitting from the National Park Service and the DEP, that would take a lot longer to secure. So what we've done is we've taken this Hamilton Canal concept that we have right now, and we're putting it out for a request for qualifications. As you saw, we have a great marketing plan who we're going to reach out to. We've already had people contact us expressing interest in it, and I'm really confident that we're going to get some good responses. But the important thing to note about this request for qualifications is it's not limited to just this concept. We aren't saying that you have to give us a proposal that includes 450 units of residential housing. We're not saying that you have to give us a certain mix of residential housing, commercial, and retail. What we've done is we've kept this request for qualifications wide open and flexible. What we've said in this request for qualifications is we're going to say, you tell us what you think is the best proposal to develop this area. And if that requires us to do zoning changes, if that requires us to secure permits for that particular use from the National Park Service and the DEP, then we will work with you to secure those permits and the zoning changes. So it's a very flexible RFQ. Someone could come in with all commercial, and if we feel that that's in the best interest of the city for all commercial use of this area, then we would accept and make a recommendation to you to have all commercial. I rather suspect that there's going to be a component of residential because, quite honestly, parcels 8 and 9 really are only usable for residential development. The size of the lot, the configuration of it, and its proximity to the canal calls for a use for residential and not commercial or retail. So there is going to be some component, but I really don't think there's going to be a 450 units of residential housing component in any request. So I think it's very important to note that this is a very, very flexible request. We're going to seek the best possible response for jump-starting this Hamilton Canal. And we also reserve the right not only to have a master developer. I firmly believe we need a master developer, somebody who's attuned to marketing, attuned to construction, development, can reach out and do that type of work better than we can do. But we've done a lot of work up at the Hamilton Canal District. We know these parcels backwards and forwards. And if we have somebody come in with a request to develop 1 or maybe 2 parcels, then we also reserve the right to pull that parcel out and develop it ourselves with that particular proposer. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Again, as I stated earlier, we've included language in there relative to hiring local residents. So if a proposal comes in and it includes a component of hiring residents of Lowell in their workforce, then that's going to be a much better proposal than one that doesn't. We've also had the one entity, the board that it'd have to go to on this side of the Hamilton Canal is the Historic Board. And we've had great strides with working with the Historical Board lately. Chairman Lockhart and Stephen Stoll have been terrific to deal with. I think if you talk to the developer of Comfort Bedding, you'll find out that he'll tell you that the Historic Board has been very good to deal with. So I'm confident that we're going to be able to attract a vigorous development of this area. And we are going to maintain those deadlines that are in this request for qualifications. Whoever enters into a land disposition agreement with us after this request process is going to have to secure building permits within 6 months. And construction has to begin within a year. Now you say, how can that work in conjunction with if we have to change any zoning or permitting? Well, the proposal is in all likelihood going to show that they're going to be able to start some parts of the Hamilton Canal District right away. And if they want to change the zoning or the permitting, we will have time to work to get the change in the zoning and the permitting. And we're willing to work to do that. So I'm really excited about this. You know, we've done a lot of work. I really, really believe that we're going to get a good proposal or proposals down the line, and I would appreciate your vote of concurrence with my thought and endorse this request for qualifications.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Clark?
I'm Kathleen Marson. I live at 200 Market Street, and most of you know me because I was president of the Downtown Neighborhood Association for 10 years. You all don't, but I like the fact that you have a Plan B. It makes me very happy. I live, wait a minute, the building permit from 2003 says I live at 256.3 and 256.6 Market Street, which is actually part of your parcel 16. And I'm just happy to see this. I think there is a lot of flexibility. I went to all of those meetings. I read your FRQ 3 times last night. There's a lot of flexibility there. And what brought with me specifically, the reason that I came is it doesn't show in the boundaries that there is an actual residential building in the boundaries of this project, but we really do live there. Right next to the snowfield, and we'll be happy to see that go. But the one thing that I am concerned about is the part that the city has the responsibility for is to build the garage. And originally, back in 2007 or 8, it was like a out-of-the-box garage, like the early garage. We're going to come over, we're going to plunk it down there, have a nice day. And basically, you're telling 54 people who own units on that side of the building that it's 38.2 feet from the window of one of those units to the wall of the garage. So that's like from me to the mayor. And someone's going to build a 70-foot wall out, So anyway, long story short, we met, the residents Canal Place 3 met with Trinity. I got my eye on them because my daughter lives in Ashmont and Dorchester. And they did do a shadow study for us. And I brought it with me. I'm sure you all have this from the past. So what I would like to know from the city is, are you going to honor the changes that were made to the design of the garage in order to, provide some kind of a mitigation for the daylight?
Mr. Manager?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I got.
So how easy that is, Ms. Morrison? Is that it for registered speakers, Mr. Clerk? With that, Council Mercia, Council Belanger, Council Rourke, Council Kennedy.
When I look at the Hamilton Canal area, it's like a jewel there because we don't have an abundance of land where we can build commercial, and I think we've set our limit for market rate housing. Actually, I do. And when we hear people talk, and they talk about, we'd like a job, we need more industry, we will, if we didn't have this piece of property, we wouldn't have any area around here where we could build industry or we could create more jobs. And I think about the program that took place that said you could go to work, and they got tax credits if you were in a district where people could walk to work. And this is just an area where you could walk to work if we had a sizable industry there. And my question with that is there any call for it in the planning department? If I were looking to set up industry somewhere and I called Lowell, and did they, in the planning department, did they ever receive a call for X number of square footage, but we don't have it? And here's an opportunity to do that, because we will never have this opportunity again. I mean, there's plenty of opportunity to build more housing or take a mill and convert it into, we have other places where we could do this, but we don't have another place where we have the opportunity to put in industry that would create jobs, that would allow people to walk to work, and the company gets a tax credit for that, like we did on Rock Street in that building, Unwrapped, whatever that place was that they were making, Lowell things. People were walking to work, they were getting tax credits there.
Mr. Manager, do you have?
In the old Goodwill building of years ago. We could do the same thing here if we stop and had a plan for that. That's my concern. That's
Mr.
all.
Manager, response to, do we get calls for commercial space? Ms.
Lammy,
Ms. Lammy?
Sure, yes, we do. We're very excited about this because this will open up some more opportunities for commercial space, office space. Parcels 15 and 16 are total about 230,000 square feet is what what the plan kind of calls for in terms of the massive space there. So that's quite a lot of commercial space that will now be available that we can, we can bring potential tenants to.
This parcel here allows us to have a little bit of everything in the city for whoever needs it. And I think there's an opportunity for industry. We have a university that's going to grow and have on-the-job training for medical devices or whatever. Maybe we should consider a parcel like that, an opportunity like that for a building. You see, that's my concern. I don't want to let this opportunity pass where we're putting in more housing and retail and we're not allowing for jobs in industry. That's my concern, because we'll never have this chance again. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Councilor. Councilor Belanger and Councilor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's no doubt a very exciting time. This RFQ was well thought out and well planned, Mr. Manager. Well done on your part, on your office, and planning and development. The Hamilton Canal is going to be literally a city within a city. It's going to nearly double the size of downtown. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager, just a couple questions before I comment. Mr. Manager, I see you're putting together a website, hamiltoncanal.org. How far are we from completing that, may I ask?
Mr. Manager.
Can I ask Ms. Trad to respond to that?
We've actually hired a website designer, and we've already gotten all the documentation together. So that'll be a website that developers can go to and get survey information, the MIPA, all the things that they'll need to go forward.
Okay.
So we're almost there. It will be ready when this is ready to go out on the street, which will be the first week of September.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mrs. Trad. Great job. And Mr. Manager, I see you're appointing a master developer committee. That's interesting. I do support that. The ultimate decision relies on this council, but I do not have a problem with you involving stakeholders and residents of the city who care and have a share in this huge development. So how soon do you plan on putting that together and whatnot?
Mr. Manager.
Yeah, we'll put that together right after the vote of endorsement. I'll start asking people. I think it's good to have an advisory board of people who are knowledgeable of development, real estate, and whatnot, and they can advise us on what they think are the highly advantageous proposals. And as you say, ultimately, it will be the city that makes the determination, but based upon the advice of those people who are familiar with the entity.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Manager, what I like, as you alluded to earlier, or what I mostly like about the proposal is that the aggressive timelines you included, where basically phase one, you have to pull a permit in 6 months and start construction within a year. And also, on top of that, they have to include a phase development plan for the remaining parcels that, the more aggressive they are, the higher rating they will get in the process. So that's good. That's going to make them want to ramp up production, if you will. So I very much support that. But I just want to adhere to that we don't go down the same path as was the previous developer, that they adhere to these deadlines. And there's penalties or revocation. I didn't happen to notice that in the RFQ. Perhaps I missed something, but, I don't think history is going to repeat itself here, but we need to hold this developer accountable if they get too far behind. So again, we don't make that same mistake twice.
Mr. Manager.
Ms. Trad can correct me, but I also think we're making these proposals put some skin in the game also, because we're requiring some upfront payments. Rather than waiting for them to finish a development of a parcel, we're saying, no, you're going to pay us up front. It's a more advantageous proposal the more you're paying us up front. Because if they pay us up front, then there's an incentive for them to finish the parcel.
No, I agree. I was about to get to that point. That's very good. It's good coverage for us. And I like how the city reserves the right to award partial developments as well. So essentially, we could have multiple parcels being developed simultaneously. And it would be nice to see, 2 parcels going at once at the same time. That would be very pleasing to see. We'll see if we can achieve that. I know you and your department will work hard. But I do have a few concerns on a few issues, Mr. Manager. In section 1.1 titled Development Vision, in that paragraph, the final sentence states that the Hamilton Canal District will incorporate signature architecture and urban design to complement Lowell's historic built environment. That's section 1.1. And in 3 separate other paragraphs that pertain to development review or permits, I see the Lowell Conservation Commission. It isn't, the Canal District is considered, that's fine. Lowell Historic Board, Lowell National Historic Park, Lowell Historic Board Design Review Committee all have say in these, but where is the city's involvement in this on these parcels, Mr. Manager? It's not in the language. I looked several times. I think that needs, not that I have, please, I have nothing against these organizations that got it to this point. They should be part of the process, but I think that the city of Lowell should have quite an amount to say too on these designs of these parcels.
Mr. Manager?
Yes, good point. First of all, if you look at the Hamilton Canal District, look at the canal that bisects the Hamilton Canal District.
Mm-hmm.
And think of where 110 Canal Place is.
Yeah.
That entire side of the Hamilton Canal District is fully permitted now, with the exception of Historic Board approval. So these are fully permitted, ready to go on this side.
Right.
On the other side of the canal, those parcels would have to go to the Conservation Commission and other commissions to get their approvals down the road. And Ms. Tradd, if you could just address the councilor's question relative to what involvement these boards have in the permitting on the other side of the canal.
Ms. Tradd?
Sure. First of all, one thing to note is that there are no more existing buildings to be renovated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all new construction. Right. This whole site has been permitted through a memorandum of understanding with the Park Service. So the Historic Board will be looking at the buildings, but we've already decided on the form of the buildings, the shapes through the form-based code, and it's new construction. It can be steel, it can be glass. They're going to be looking at the massing and how it fits in, but it's not like doing a historic review of a historic building. It's a completely different process. And as far as the Conservation Commission, that will be a quick negative determination of applicability. That's probably what's going to happen, just a quick process, because everything has been permitted. So they're simple, they're not, and it's not the same as the typical historic board review. It's already been permitted for the whole district.
Thank you, Diane. That eases my concerns there very much. I just wanted to make sure, Mr. Manager, that your office, Planning and Development, has a say of what each parcel, what type of building and architecture it is. Again, no offense to anybody. These groups deserve to be involved. I have no problem with it. But, I just want to make sure that, reading it seemed like we were almost reduced to bricks and mortar as I read the RFQ, but that's good input, and I thank you for that. This is, as Councilor Mercier stated, this is the last frontier in the city of Lowell. And we need to show signs, on these new construction buildings that Lowell is launching into the 21st century at the same time. We need to show signs that we're a modern city and a 21st century city at the same time. For example, University Crossing up there on the boulevard, glass and steel, a gorgeous building. So, we need to have that look in this city along this gateway as well. I'm not opposed to, bricks and mortar in some units. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, but I just want to show signs that Lowell is becoming a modern city at the same time, Mr. Manager. And I think, through hearing Diane, that my concerns are perhaps a little bit eased there on that, so that's great. Okay, now, as we alluded to earlier, the housing that's going to be involved within this district. You have, as you said earlier, there was a very hearty conversation on WC this morning about it, and strictly all commercial. You have to know the site very well enough. Like you said, parcels 8 and 9 do not work for anything else. This is not going to be entirely commercial, okay? But on 5 others in the graphs in the RFQ, You got parcels 5, residential or commercial, parcel 7, resident. So you see me got a lot to what ifs here. So it could be anywhere from 8 and 9 to 130 units in the 500-600 range, or 450 as you mentioned, which I think is far too many. I think we achieved the housing component in the downtown that we were looking to do. I think has been accomplished. Okay, I'd like to see very little residential in this district. Okay, you know, parcels 8 and 9 total 130 units. To me, I'm sufficient with that. There's several other developments. We may not get our way, and it may be understandable. But I think we need to put a stress how much we're looking for commercial. Stress on this RFQ very much. We're more partial to commercial developments. Okay, and the residents we do give them. Okay, these units that we do slate for housing need to be market rate condominiums, for sale, owner occupied. Okay. Now, we have talked for a lengthy period of time, we have had many conversations on this council floor regarding businesses and commercial. Well, now we got to do our part and give them residents that support them, okay? We're going to have multiple businesses down there, there's no two ways about it. Who is going to support them on nights and weekends, okay? They need residents with disposable income, okay? We owe that to them, okay? Because we're going to ask, say, come to Lowell, we need to have the surroundings need to have disposable income to patronize these businesses, okay? So I would like to see, percentage-wise, I would say 80% commercial, 20% residential, if I was to sum it up in a percentage, Mr. Manager, if you will, okay? So, you know, it's time that this city, you know, raises the bar, really, okay? We've gone through a housing boom. At the time, there was an economic recession, which played a role, no doubt about it, but we did not get the result we were looking to get, and I'll leave it at that. So it's time we raise the bar in this city and demand market rate condominiums owner-occupied, Mr. Manager. That's my opinion, and that's what I'm going to support. And, you know, so again, that, you know, I can't stress enough that the disposable income down there is paramount, So in closing, Mr. Manager, that a few things I'd like to see added. I don't think I'm prepared to vote on this, approve this tonight. But I could get outvote, who knows. But a few things in summary that I'd like to include in the language that the City of Lowell will be included in all parts of the design review process. I just would like it in the language. I can see that's where we're at, but I'd feel a lot better if the City of Lowell is included, such as all those boards and commissions I mentioned at the same time. And enforcement of deadlines, I think, is important. Now, the previous developer, with all due respect, when the public money ran out, they chose to do other developments throughout the state. And that cannot happen again. I don't think it will, Mr. Manager. We got a very well-crafted proposal here. But at the same time, to protect the city, I think deadlines need to be in there. And penalties if deadlines aren't adhered to. Initially you have parcel 5, Mr. Manager, slated for possible theater. Now, I think that at least one parcel here should be completely dedicated to arts, culture, and theater. That should be a reality. That's the direction that took us to this point, and that's the direction we're going from this point forward. So I think one parcel should be completely dedicated to arts, culture, and theater, and I don't believe, hopefully that doesn't mess up the zoning too much to get us back for more approvals that take time. I don't want to hold this up at the same time, but I feel strongly in that sense that at least one parcel should be dedicated to that. And now, the parking garage, this is a very, we're talking 15 acres here, very large parcel. Now, what there's a need for, in my opinion, is there's a need for short-term surface parking at the same time. Now, if you have a parcel that borders Middlesex Street, and the only parking is the garage, which is behind Market Street, there's about 200 yards difference. How is a coffee shop or a diner going to survive if you've got to park, 2 football fields away? So I think if we can, it'd be nice to include some short-term surface parking, Mr. Managers, for those businesses who require coffee shops and need in and out parking. There is none to speak of, basically, besides the garage. I don't think that's going to be adequate. I don't know what can be done at this point, but I'm just sharing you my sentiments. And I think going into it, the first parcel should be required to be commercial. Okay, that's what's going to catapult this whole thing. This is where people are going to want to live and be around as they see this happen. So, you know, that's something I just like to see. I like to hear the feedback from my councilors, but I'd like to see the very first one to be a commercial parcel. And that's about it. And that's in summary. Other than that, I think it's good. I mean, I do have concerns, but I'd like to hear the input from my colleagues at the same time. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council. Council Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, in looking at the RFQ, I think the two main concerns I had, and I think others may have had, was the number 450 did stick out right away. That, and also with the residency, with the workforce. Obviously, the residency has been taken care of tonight, you know, through the good work by the manager in his office. And I was very happy, Mr. Manager, to hear you say flexibility with regards to any proposals that you may receive. You know, to have a wide open option. I mean, this is the last, as other councils have said, the last big thing we can do with the downtown. You know, you gave a terrific presentation tonight of what you hope to see down there, or how flexible the city will be, where the DPD will be, with regards to zoning and use of land. So I'm ready to support the RFQ for tonight, based upon your presentation and what you told us this evening. And again, I was very happy to. I think 450, as you stated, is a little high. Hopefully that's cut way down. I support some of the comments made by Councilor Mercer and Councilor Belanger. Hopefully to get the majority of the use of the land over there to be commercial. We'll hope that's being done. We'll get to vote on that down the line. So I'd be happy to support the RFQ tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Further discussion on this report? Councilor Kennedy, then Councilor Leahy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I think that maybe I look at this area a little bit differently than a lot of other people because, first of all, I see the Hamilton Canal area as part of, or is attached to the Jam area, which is a larger area, and which I think also is ripe for future development. I would just as soon not see any residential or commercial development in the whole area. I really think that this is our last opportunity to have industrial development. And so what I would like to try to, what I think the city should strive for is to have an R&D industrial office park comprised of several buildings within the Hamilton Canal area, and then eventually the larger Jam area. And I think that the reason that this is a good location for this is there are several. I think that one is that the train station is across the street, and so commuter rail, you can walk to your job if you had a job in the Jam area. If you didn't want to, you have interstate access through the Lowell connector, which would be very handy as well. And I think that if you could develop this area as an industrial park with high-paying R&D type jobs, that's almost all you'd have to do to the downtown. You know, we had a discussion a little earlier in this meeting about how the downtown's taken 2 steps forward, 1 step back. The downtown would be all set all on its own if there were several hundred jobs right adjacent to the central business district as it stands now. And I think the other thing that makes this area, or that would make this area attractive, is that we also have on the other side of it the South Common. And so, you know, that's an area where people could, if they worked in that area, could go for a lunchtime and have passive recreation. I think that I was happy to see that the manager at least added a sentence in on the Jam area into the RFQ, so that at least it's in there and gives any potential company that's going to respond to this something to think about. But what concerns me quite a bit is that as you go through the RFQ, there is a lot of reference to residential housing and residential housing units. And in many instances, it's specific as to how many units will be there. And I think that for anybody that was looking at this and that was entertaining submitting a response to this to the RFQ, what would happen is it's going to be in your mind that the city must want residential uses there. And we can say no, but that's still how it is. And so I know that there's 4 or 5 or 6 different companies that we're going to send this to. Some of those companies are deal almost exclusively with industrial or commercial development. They don't do any residential. And this might be enough to put them off, just the references in there. If we really do want this to be totally flexible, and if we want to get as great number of responses as possible, then I would think that we would want to take out any reference to residential units that are in the RFQ now. And if somebody comes in and they want to put a residential component or develop some residential in there, then we could entertain that at some time. But I think that what we're trying to really do with this RFQ is it's a net, and we're looking to get as many fish as we can into the net. And we don't want fish just skipping off out of the net because there's a residential component and they're looking at it and saying to themselves, well, the city must want residential in here. We don't do residential, so we'll pass on this. There's no need for there to be any reference to residential in there. The RFQ can stand on its own with very little editing, but just taking those residential units out of there and residential references out of there. And I think that makes it a stronger RFQ. I think that it probably makes it be that we would get a better response than what we would get otherwise. And so that's what I would like to support. So I would offer a motion to the body just to delete references to residential housing units in the RFQ. And if it comes up at a later time, if the zoning at a later time, there's plenty of time going forward to do that. This isn't going to happen in a 3 or 6 month time. All we're doing right now, really, is looking for people who are interested. We're trying to get master developers, and I think the best way to do that is to keep it as open-ended as possible.
And I'd second that.
I would offer that motion.
Second.
Motion by Council Kennedy, seconded by Council Mercia to delete references in the RFQ to residential development.
Yep. Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Delete any reference to residential development or residential housing units, that's all.
Residential, yeah, that, Mr. Clerk, residential housing or residential development. Motion was made and seconded by Council Mercia. On the motion, Council Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do concur with Councilor Kennedy, but parcels 8 and 9 simply do not work. I mean, you have to walk this, and that's total 130 units. So I would, if it's okay with the maker of the motion, I would support parcels 8 and 9 for housing, and the remaining, because it's simply not going to work for anything else. It's just the layout of the land. I would like it as much as Councilor Kennedy and Mercia and everybody else, but if it's okay with the maker of the motion, parcels 8 and 9 totaling 130 units for housing, the remaining parcels taking the residential aspect out, and I would be prepared to vote on this evening. Thank you.
Okay, well, motion was made and seconded on that language change.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councilor Belanger. In concept, I think our limit with housing has reached its peak, but I do understand those 2 parcels are small enough that you couldn't put anything else there, so
Okay.
I didn't think of that part.
To the maker of the motion, will we accept that friendly amendment?
I think it's important to understand that what we're really doing tonight is just trying to create an RFQ that's going to bring us as many responses as possible, and that's it. To think that we will this evening shape this district and decide what goes where, it's just That just isn't what's going to happen. It's going to be the developer that's going to end up saying, look, this is that we select. That developer is going to come back and say, listen, you know, I'd like to put this here and this there. It will occur to that developer, whoever it may be, that those two parcels might not be conducive to industrial development and that they would be conducive to residential development. And at that point, maybe they'd send those off to a residential developer. But I think that all we're really trying to do this evening is make our net as strong as possible, or as big as possible, so that we can get as many responses as we can to the RFQ.
Okay, so again, to the maker of the motion, will you accept that as a friendly amendment, because Council Mercer will have to withdraw her second? Do you
Yeah.
withdraw your second?
Withdraw in the second. I didn't realize those.
Motion withdrawn on the original motion. Motion?
Can't withdraw the second without the
Well, that was a question to you, Councilor.
no, I don't accept the amendment. But also, you can't withdraw the second without the permission of the maker of the motion.
Madam Solicitor, can a second be withdrawn? Okay, well, motion was made and seconded. So, to you, Council Belanger, you want to make an amendment to his motion?
Well, I'd like to stick with it, but I understand Councilor Kennedy's but now we're only attracting commercial developers. We totally eliminated residential.
Okay, Council, on the motion, you can make a motion to amend
Yeah.
Council Kennedy's motion.
Yes.
Motion to amend by Council Belanger
Yeah.
to exempt parcels 8 and 9.
9 for housing, totaling 130 units, yes.
Motion by Council Belanger. Second on the motion? Second by Council Mercia to amend Council Kennedy's motion on the residency language to exempt 8 and 9. On the motion, we have a number of councilors that are waiting to speak on the motion response. Council Mercia, you all set?
Yes, I'm fine.
I have Council Leahy, then I have Councilor Samaras, then Councilor Milonazo. Council Leahy?
I'm all set at this point with everything that's been going back and forth. I'm all
Okay,
set.
Council Leahy, then we'll go Council Samaras, and then Council Milonazo.
All right. I just want to speak on the plan. The plan as stated is a very flexible outline. There's no question about that. And I think the flexibility gives the city manager the opportunity to work with any developers coming to the city. And that's what, when I looked at the RFQ, that's what I saw in this. It wasn't a perfect plan, but very close to it. I mean, a very close, very good approach to dealing with this issue. I want to see commercial and research and development developed in this area. I think all of us want that. I think the city manager wants that. The question I have to the city manager, when Secretary Ash came in, he thought that the basic plans that we had outlined at that particular point were more than reasonable and faced a good chance of being developed. He saw this city as not looking for that golden hit, you know, that Google was going to come to Lowell, as he stated, but that we had a reasonable approach to everything that we were doing. He also talked about bringing builders and designers together statewide to look at communities throughout the state as to where they could best develop their products, so to speak. Do you see Secretary Ash coming in to help us, or the state being a useful tool along with this RFQ?
Mr. Manager?
Yes, thank you. Through you, yes, absolutely. And it's stated in our marketing plan that we've already talked to Secretary Ash. He's going to provide us a list of developers who work in the areas like the gateway cities and develop places like this, and he's going to help us out in attracting developers to this parcel.
I mean, so basically what I see is our plan is in tandem with what he would like to see done in this state.
Absolutely.
So at this point, I understand the frustration of some of the other councilors. I mean, because we are looking at jobs, and these are the things that we need to make this city grow. I think this plan gives us that opportunity at this particular point. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Samaras, and Council Martin. Excuse me, Council Milonazo, then Council Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on the good points that Council Samaras made, I think that it's important to give the manager and the administration the flexibility that I feel is in this RFQ. I think that the fact that he has listened, your administration has listened to some of the comments of the council in the past. As a result, we're seeing more flexibility. And again, I do have confidence in the manager and the Planning and Development Office. Yes, we all want jobs. We all want research and development facilities. But I think we also want the flexibility working with the Secretary of Housing and Economic Development to actually show them that this plan is a jewel and these 15 acres. Again, I can't support the motion as amended because I really believe that a lot of time, effort, energy, and intelligence, if you will, has gone into putting this RFQ before us this evening. And I just think that if we end up amending it from here, again, not to say that down the road we can't, as pointed out by Councilor Kennedy, even though his original motion has been amended, that we can do that and have that flexibility. I'm just prepared tonight to support the RFQ as presented by the administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Milonazzo. Councilor Martin.
Thank you. You know, I come from this perspective, I think, where I favor more commercial uses than residential uses. And I've had that opinion for a long time. I expressed that view to the prior master developer many times, and in the charrette process and in private meetings. And I think we do have a pretty good commercial component here. I do think, so I want to move forward with this. I want to see what interest there is and I think to do that, we have to move forward. You know, Mr. Manager, in the memo, it says that we reserve the right to consider as extremely advantageous proposals that deviate from the master plan. So, but it's one thing to sort of reserve the right to do that. It's another thing to sort of encourage people to propose something that they might think is different. However, to just say we can't, to just eliminate all references to residential development, I don't think works. I think you'd have to go back, you'd have to amend the master plan that requires DHCD approval, and we're back in sort of a bureaucratic quagmire trying to come up with what we all think is a perfect plan that might not be supported by the marketplace. So, so I think we need to get going with this. I really do think that we need to move ahead. And so I'm going to vote to support going ahead with this plan. I would have preferred to see something that sort of encourages deviation, or at least if people feel they have a good faith reason to say this building shouldn't be a residential building, this should be a commercial building. And developers might hesitate, I guess, to make that proposal because they think we want a residential building there. So I have that hesitation, but I also think we're going to be working pretty closely with who's going to be seriously interested in submitting plans. So if people see that, you know, this could be a signature office building for somebody and not a residential building, I think people won't be shy about proposing that. And if they're willing to build that, you know, then I think it makes sense to go through the process with DHCD and do whatever amendments we can. So to try and just do that now because we think, you know, and we're going to get, if there's 9 of us here, I bet we have 13 different opinions. We already have different opinions, right? We want 130 residential units, or we want 0, or we want 400. So I think the thing for us to do is to get moving with this, get this on the street, see what kind of interest is available to us, and then we'll see. And then we'll see. But I do think we should be encouraging developers who express an interest to not be sort of have their hands tied by the master plan if they think they can do something better.
Mr. Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. In response to that and to Councilor Kennedy's previous comments about the housing component, is we actually had that conversation today is that although we're saying this is flexible, we want to add language that shows that we're going to accept something that's more commercial than residential, is that we favor the commercial aspect of it. So we're going to amend the language so that it's crystal clear to a developer that even though it says housing, we're not saying you have to put housing there. We're going to make it advantageous to have a more commercial component to the RFQ.
Council Kennedy, and then I'd ask Mr. Council Lay to take the chair.
If there's no objection, I would like to accept Councilor Belange's amendment to my motion as a friendly amendment.
So it's actually been amended. Mr. Clerk, can you go through the motions? Just we have.
The original motion by Council Kennedy, seconded by Mercier, to delete all references to residential housing and development units in the RFQ. Not acted upon. There was a motion to amend by Council Belanger, seconded by Council Mercier, to delete parcels 8 and 9 from Council Kennedy's motion, stating that it should be not in excess of 130 units of residential units.
So I think the way to dispose is to vote on the amendment, and then if it passes or it doesn't pass, then we revert back to the original motion. Correct?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, I was just trying to, if it's...
Motion's been made and seconded on an amendment, so it really can't be withdrawn.
Okay.
Council Kennedy, Council Lay, can you take the chair, please?
Chair recognizes Mayor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. This is such an important project. It has been since its inception. Many good points have been made, and there are so many different opinions because it's a large project. It's something different. It was and continues to be cutting edge in the Commonwealth, and I think a lot of valid concerns have been raised based upon experience with other projects and the composition of these other housing projects now. That being said, I think the most important component of this proposal is its flexibility. And I think the developers, no one knows the market forces better than those people that know the investors. They have the experience in commercial or residential development. They know what businesses are looking for out there. There's plenty of data on businesses and what the availability of space is out there. We get reports. I get a report from the state on available space. So I'm going to support this RFQ as presented. I'm not going to support the amendment because I think it's a good plan. I don't think any of us here are developers. We all have goals that we would like to see achieved, including myself. And the market will determine, as it did unfortunately when we adopted the first master plan. The market went south. We hit the Great Recession, so we put into the pipeline what we could. But I think the most important point made, I agree with Councilor Martin, we just got to move forward on this. To start changing the plan midstream, we have to start the process all over. It has to go to DHCD for approval. It's set back. It's been stalled for long enough, and I think what my opinion is that the economy is moving forward, and we need to put projects into the pipeline. And you've expressed to us, Mr. Manager, there's been significant interest in various parcels. So let's get this out there. We have a list of companies, they're even touring up till today. Businesses, they want to come to Lowell. There is a demand. So I think the best interest of the city in this project is to adopt it. If this was presented as it was in the past, that we're locked into one developer with the plan, and There were significant challenges to making any changes to those, to the zoning, or not being able to invite somebody else from the outside to participate and say, look, I'm ready to go. I have the capital, I have the money to proceed with this particular parcel, and the master developer is not. That's a bonus to the city. That's what we want. That's the win-win we need. So I support this because what's happening over there right now is nothing. And we're talking about, we talk about taxes, and we want businesses in here. We want more tax revenue. This is the step that we have to make in order to reap the benefits of the university and their startup businesses and the training and the jobs that we need. So I think it's important. In the meantime, we're going to have that judicial center moving. That could change the complexion of this district as well when that comes and what the demands meet. So I think this was well thought out. I think it is the change of the flexibility is significant to this development and to the city. And I'm actually excited as well, Mr. Manager. I think something's going to happen in a very timely manner, and will achieve the results that we're looking for through this plan. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay. Want to switch?
On the motion, I'm sorry, Councilor Leahy, then Councilor Belanger.
I just want to say that after going through the RFQ and listening to everybody tonight, I too wanted more commercial than residence. The residency portion did bother me, although I do believe that in that section of town, in that section 8 and 9, I think, we could do some pretty nice residential development over there. I understand what Councilor Kennedy was saying, but I think after listening to the whole discussion, I'm going to support the original RFQ.
Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The amendment, what Councilor Kennedy first proposed, the motion, in my amendment, it seems like we all want commercial, but aren't willing to go forward. If we make an amendment on this document, it's going to be done by the end of the day tomorrow. It's not going to hold this process up. Now, I said it before, and let's raise the bar in this city. Okay, we've got enough housing. Okay, where has it gotten us to this point? This big renaissance that we just got completed. Granted, recession played a role, but what did we end up with? Okay, and it seems like we're ready to go right down that path again. We all seem to want commercial, but again, we want to leave it open. So, a developer's going to, because there's probably more money in housing, okay, which is advantage to them, but not to the city. I don't support it. I think we're going right down the same path we did as the Renaissance. If we keep this wide open to potentially another 400 to 600 units. I disagree. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Further discussion on the amendment. We also have to vote on the amendment. Ms. Roll call.
On the amendment. Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
No.
Council Rourke.
No.
Council Samaras.
No.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
No.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
No.
Council Martin.
No.
3 yeas, 6 nays. Fails.
Amendment fails. So back to motion by Councilor Kennedy. If the clerk could just read that motion for the members, just for clarification.
Council Kennedy, seconded by Council Mercia. A motion to delete references to residential housing units and residential development contained in the RFQ.
What's that, members? Roll call.
I thought that was deleted.
No, it was amended, and now we go back to the original motion.
Are we going to vote on the RFQ, the original?
There's been not a motion made on that yet.
Oh, okay, so this is,
This is Council Kennedy's motion
okay,
to,
all right,
Awesome.
sure.
Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Counsel Mercia.
No,
Counsel Milonazo.
No.
Counsel Rourke.
No.
Counsel Samaras.
No.
Counsel Belanger.
No.
Mayor Elliott.
No.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
No.
Counsel Martin.
No.
1-8.
8 yeas, 1 nay, 1 yea, 8 nays, motion fails. Motion on the RFQ.
Motion to approve is presented.
Motion to approve by Council Milazzo, seconded by Council Samaras, to adopt the RFQ as presented. Discussion? Roll call.
Counsel Mercia.
yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, motion passes. The Hamilton Canal District RFQ, as presented, is adopted. Entertain a motion to accept those items that were not, there were no motions on, that was presented by the city manager and placed on file by Council Martin, seconded by Council Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The motion responses are adopted and placed on file. Got it. So we are moving on to 6.2. We have a communication from the city manager for out-of-state travel, 2 from Lowell Police Department, 1 from the Department of Public Works. Entertain a motion to accept by Councilor Samaras, seconded by Councilor Rourke. On the question, Councilor Leahy?
Yeah, through you to the manager. On the one from DPW, there's no information though. So just on principle, it's, yeah, everything like registration, location, registration, air, hotel, gas, per diem, everything's not available. So it just, I don't really want to hold it up, but you know, you ask from DPW to go to North Carolina. We're voting on something that we have no idea on. Oh, it's no cost. Oh, that's what it is, not. All right, just the registration is being paid for too, because it's not available, but.
Mr. Manager, could you turn your mic on?
Okay.
I'm sorry. There is no cost to the city for it, so that's why he didn't break out the cost.
All right, I was just looking at the not avail, okay. All right, thank you.
Further questions? Roll call.
Counsel Mercia. Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia is recorded as yes.
Council Mercy is here. 9 yeas, motion passes. Moving on to the next votes from the city manager. We have a vote to apply, accept, and expend a grant from the Council on Aging, $136,800. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Belanger, seconded by Council Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Second reading by title. In City Council, the vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to apply for, accept, and expend a grant from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs in the maximum amount of $136,800 for the continued employment of staff as well as funding of various supplies and equipment, maintenance for use by the Council on Aging. Move to approve by Councilman Mercia, seconded by Councilman Milonazo. Roll call.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. Moving on to the next item, we're on votes from the city manager. Still 7.2. We have a vote to authorize the city manager to execute 2 easements between the City of Lowell, UMass Lowell Building Authority, University of Massachusetts Building Authority, and the University of Massachusetts at Lowell. This is a very lengthy document. Entertain a motion to waive the full second reading by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed motion carries. The second reading by title in City Council is a vote authorizing the city manager to execute a grant of easement between the City of Lowell and the University of Massachusetts Building Authority and the University of Massachusetts at Lowell, a city sidewalk adjacent to the University Crossing Campus Center Building and the University Crossing Salem Street Building along Salem Street, Pawtucket Street, and Merrimack Street for the purpose of installing, maintaining, using, inspecting, repairing, altering, constructing, operating, improving, planting, and replacing trees, tree grates, planters, lighting fixtures, and signage and related equipment. What is the wish of the body? Move to approve by Council Martin, second by Council Leahy. Roll call.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. Motion passes. Next item, we move on to Section 8. We have orders from the city manager. We have a loan order for high school feasibility study of $2 million. This is the first reading. Entertain a motion to send this to this requires a public hearing to be set on August 25th at 7 p.m. Motion to approve. Council Belanger, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. Council Belanger?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, perhaps I should have done it before the vote, but of course, this is, along with the Hamilton Canal, almost equally is exciting. But, and I know we all want a new high school. We're not quite through the process yet, but I think we all want a new high school for our kids. But there's something that, I think, in my opinion, should be included in the study, and that is a highest and best use of land for this parcel. Now, Mr. Manager, I don't know who does this, what the cost is, and perhaps if we can get assistance from the MSBA on this to be included. But I think it's an important part of the decision, not a deciding factor, but if I'm going to inevitably sign a bond for $60 million and keep the taxpayers on the hook for such a bond, I'm going to want to know all of the information I can gather. And this is not an attempt to put it here, put it there, keep it. I don't know what. At this point, we have no information. We have a study currently that indicates 250 to stay there and almost 300 million to move it. But by next year, that's going to be 5 years old. So we're going to be in a whole different ballgame. We don't know where we're going to be at. So I may vote yes, keep it there. It may be move it, and it may be not at all. If the cost gets if it's not cost prohibitive, and our loan capacity doesn't call for it. There's a lot of factors here. But it's something I know I'd like to know going into this historic vote, if you will, that's going to change the facade at downtown for the next 100 years. There's no going back. So I'd like to make a motion through you, Mr. Mayor, to include a highest and best, have the manager investigate the costs and possibly include in this $2 million feasibility study a highest and best use of land for this parcel. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, the SBAB drives the bus on this issue, so to speak. They actually control even the language that we're voting on relative to this feasibility study, and the money that's to be used is for the feasibility study alone. I think it's wise for me to investigate the cost and who would do that highest and best use study of the existing parcel, but we have to keep that separate from this feasibility study that's audited by SBAB.
Okay, so you're saying state funding would be out? Okay.
Well, no, I'm just saying we couldn't use the money in this loan order to fund we could find money elsewhere if we could afford it, but we have to keep it separate from this, this pool
Understood,
of
but
money.
I would like either way, I'd like you to investigate, Mr.
Yeah.
Manager. Thank you.
Motion by Council Belanger, second on that motion,
I
Council
will-
Mercia, to have the city manager contact SBA and see if it's eligible and identify what that cost would be. Council Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, I think that probably you can get a study like that done for relatively short money, probably locally, and I would think that somebody would be able to do that in 4 to 5 weeks or something like that. And I do think that probably it's worthwhile for the money that it would cost if it was going to mean that if it was going to affect the scope of the feasibility study. So in other words, if the highest and best use study that Council Belanger is requesting came back and said that there wasn't going to be a better use for the Kirk Street property, then maybe we could narrow the scope of the feasibility study to just include Kirk Street and save the city a large amount of money, so that a little money being spent on the study that Council Belanger is asking might pay off big time for the city down the road.
Further discussion on that? Just want to let the body know, being pretty familiar with this, we have little latitude in the feasibility study. We cannot, SBA essentially tells us what they're going to look at. So, including the specific language that the manager referenced. So I just want to make that clear that even if we wanted to include this or we didn't want to include any portion of this, they're driving the bus completely on this feasibility study.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I think that you misunderstand. This doesn't need to be part of the loan order or part of the feasibility study. It would be done concurrently and aside from and independently of the feasibility study by the city in order to determine somewhere down the road whether or not we could limit the scope of the feasibility study just to Kirk Street rather than to look at other sites in certain neighborhoods throughout the city. So what I'm suggesting is that Council Belanger's idea is probably a good one, because for maybe just a couple of $1,000s or a few $1,000s, we would be able to save what might be, I don't know, $300,000-400,000 in terms of the feasibility study, depending on the scope of the study.
Council, I completely understand what the point is. I'm not sure you completely understand the restrictions that MSBA dictates to the city when it comes to the feasibility. So even if we say we don't want this to be studied, they're going to proceed and do their study based upon what they want to analyze. So I just want to make that clear, that we have little to almost no control on the feasibility, whether a study comes back and says this is good or it's not good.
So are you saying, Mr. Mayor, that the feasibility study has to include other sites besides the downtown?
The feasibility study is going to be conducted based upon what the state wants to do.
But that's not an answer.
I mean, we'll get an opinion. Again, we'll get some language for you, but I just want to make that clear that we can proceed with this. But as I mentioned at the beginning, we have little to, unfortunately, almost no latitude in this. Councilor Samaras, you may know a little bit about this.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mayor Elliott. No, I believe you're correct, Mayor Elliott. I mean, I understand where Council Belanger wants more information. Anytime a council or any of us want more information, it's for the betterment of what we're trying to do. But we have to be very careful when we're dealing with the MSBA and the school. I mean, this high school is very important to the future of the city of Lowell, and I don't want to see anything jeopardize that plan. So you're correct, Mr. Mayor. They watch us very carefully as to what we do, and we have to make sure we're not sending them a contradictory message. The message has to be clear that this city is looking to build a new high school for our students. So that's where, I'm just saying be careful at this point. Thank you.
So motion was made and seconded. Further discussion on this, I'm sorry. Council Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to respond. I understand Councilor Samaras' point 100%. But, Mr. Mayor, and contrary to your comments earlier, too, now, I was at that initial meeting over a year ago in Boston. The words I got was the MSBA, it's your city, you know what's best for your city, is regarding location. That was the message I got. So to Councilor Samaras' point, I think they expect, the biggest investment the city's going to make in its history, I think they expect debate, in all honesty. And that's not going to work against us. They're not going to call it infighting and walk away and say, you're not getting it. That's not going to happen. They expect debate on the largest project in the city. So that's not going to hurt us. So I don't know, I got mixed feelings here now, but I know I want it. When I make a decision to sign that bond, I want all the information I can gather. And I'm final on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Samaras?
No, Councilor Belanger's correct. It's just, I don't want to see this muddled up. I mean, it's just the way the state is about school building assistance. And we just have to be very careful. I just like to keep each line open and do it properly. And what the city does on the side, they do expect a lot of debate. And there's no question there'll be a lot of debate as to the location and all of that. With that said, I just want us to ensure that we don't tie the manager's hands up and create a problem for ourselves. That's my only concern. It's too important of a subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Mr. Mayor, can I get a roll call, please?
Roll call.
Well, can you repeat the motion? What's the motion? I mean,
Mr. Clerk, can you repeat the motion?
Motion by Council Belanger, second by Council Mercier to have city manager explore the cost of providing a highest/best use analysis of the property regarding the building of a new Lowell High School.
but as I understand it, that's going to be outside the feasibility study, outside of this loan order.
I think the manager is going to contact MSBA as well as SBA about the eligibility of cost. I'm sorry, Council Martin.
So I thought the manager was going to, he said the SBA won't fund this and he's going to pursue it separately. But do we already vote to refer the matter to the public hearing?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah, so this would be a separately funded outside of the feasibility study, Mr. Manager, correct? So just,
It has to be that way.
okay, and when's the public hearing going to be?
August 25th.
Okay, 2 weeks. So you think that's ample time to investigate the cost or whatnot?
Yes.
Okay, and we could potentially vote on that as well. So, thank you.
So are you withdrawing your motion?
Well, the motion was to have the manager get information on the highest and best use study and then bring that back to the council. Motion was made, seconded, and request for a roll call.
So what are we voting on? To get information on best use of what?
The high school.
If we don't have a high school there?
Correct. Council Kennedy?
I just point out that the motion, as I understand it, is just asking for a report from the city manager, that's all. So it's...
Request for information. Roll call.
Council Mercier.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
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 9 yeas. Motion passes. Moving on to 8.2. This is an order for 60-day trial at various locations. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Mercier, seconded by Council Milonazo. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. Second reading by title pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Move to approve by Council Leahy, seconded by...
I have questions on it.
Motion by Council Leahy, seconded by Council Martin. On the motion, Council Leahy?
Yeah, through you to the manager, or sure. So the bus stop on Merrimack Street, how many spots are we giving up then? Are we giving up parking spots?
We're not giving up any parking spots. That's a loading zone right now, and it's becoming a bus stop because UMass Lowell had requested us to place it there.
Okay, What about the businesses that just, so you got all those businesses there, how do they get their deliveries now?
We're in the process of reconfiguring the loading zones in downtown. If you look further down, we're adding a new loading zone down on Prescott. And I do have some surveys out right now trying to figure out where to add additional loading zones. There is a loading zone across the street on Merrimack to your left a little bit.
All right, but I mean, you got Jimmy John's, so they gotta get their supplies. And you got Sweet Lydia's, and you've got the other, I just don't see how that's gonna work for them, how.
Well, it was requested that this bus stop be placed there to have more college students come downtown to shop at Jimmy John's, because Jimmy John's is perceived as a more of the college crowd folks. So it was sort of requested.
Okay, I understand that, but how do you, if you can't get supplies to the sub shop and they have no food, what?
There is other
there a way to
loading zones,
incorporate
yeah.
a loading, like, how many times is the bus gonna stop there? They can't incorporate like deliveries in the morning and bus stop during the afternoon, or is that an option to look at?
Mr. Manager?
Actually, this was part of the plan. Instead of the buses from UMass Lowell doing a beeline to the ICC, is that
Right, I
we set it.
understand that,
But we worked with the businesses. They were advised beforehand that it was going to be a bus stop, and we're still working with them. There's been no interference with any deliveries to Sweet Lydia's or to Jimmy John's to this point, and we're working with them to resolve any issues whatsoever if there are relative to deliveries. There is one right across the street, but I know what you're talking about, crossing the street with the deliveries. But there hasn't been any issue so far, and we're still working with them to see if something does arise, then we'll help resolve it.
Okay, all right, and then I had a question on the, it's kind of confusing, what's happening with Prescott Street?
Yes, sir. Prescott Street right now, as you know, is a one-way street going from Central up to Merrimack, Kearney Square. There's enough room there actually to put, I'm putting a loading zone and then 5 or 6 parking spots right there on Prescott. There's plenty of room. The traffic turning, you don't use it. I also did a traffic analysis to make sure the traffic from the stoplight on Merrimack doesn't back up quite that way. 95% of the time, we're pretty sure it won't affect the backup. So Prescott Street's wide enough to accommodate parking and to have one lane of traffic up to the alleyway, to the sort of the underpass there. So it actually it benefits those stores there. It helps to bring more people to that area. It's
not wide enough to have 3 lanes of traffic there?
You don't need 3 lanes of traffic. The only reason you need 2 lanes of traffic up top of Prescott is because you have the traffic lights, you have turning vehicles. Further down, you don't need it, and it's actually just wasted space. So the leasing office actually just opened up on Prescott, and they were very happy to have parking right there.
Right.
It's just wasted space right now, so we might as well add metered, it's going to be metered parking, so.
All right, and we can always revisit this, right? I mean, I agree with you, now that you can go down Merrimack Street out of the city instead of forcing you to go up Prescott, it relieves a lot of the pressure there.
Right.
But I don't really agree with it 100%, but we can always revisit it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
All set?
Yeah.
Motion been made and seconded. Roll call.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Mayor Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. We're moving on to section 9. We have ordinances from the city manager. We have an ordinance for traffic, quarterly traffic ordinance. Motion to refer this to a public hearing on August 25th by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Samaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion passes. We have reports from the Transportation Subcommittee. Chair, I'd like to recognize Chairman Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the interest of time, I will be as brief as it will take to drive through the new realigned intersection at Bridge and the VFW Highway.
Motion to approve the report.
We met at 5:30, we listened, we approved it as a report of progress. It was a very informative meeting, and I thank everyone for their input and for turning out, and that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Milanazzo. Motion to Council Marcia.
Not on that one. I have something else.
Okay, motion to accept the report as a report of progress and place on file by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Council Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. Reports, Council Mercia.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will schedule a Parks and Recreation Subcommittee on Tuesday, August 25th at 5:30 to discuss with my colleagues regarding upgrades to different parks, Mulligan Park on Plain Street, Engage Field Playground upgrades. Some of my colleagues had concerns about this, and I think there's some discussion, and we can bring a report back to the council regarding these two parks. And if I might add, there will be a grand opening of the O'Donnell Park splash pad this Saturday at 11 o'clock. This will be the official unveiling of the splash pad named in honor of World War II hero John J. O'Donnell. Besides being a dedication, it'll also be a fun day for kids in the city, and the city will offer cotton candy. Mr. Manager, you didn't probably know, but popcorn, snow cones, and other tasty treats. The public is invited, and I'm offering an invitation to my colleagues as well this Saturday, 11 o'clock, across the street from the Old English Cemetery on Gorham Street. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. On the splash pad, will you be dancing around that splash
I
pad?
will
in
not.
your,
No, I will not.
Council Rourke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to schedule a Public Safety Subcommittee for September 8th at 5 p.m.
September 8th, Public Safety.
Mr. Manager will have a presentation on that date. Thank you.
What's that on, Council?
That'll be on the regional 911
Regional 911.
call centers.
Okay, thank you. Any
Just
other
a-
subcommittee?
And also jaywalking too.
Jaywalking in Regional 911. Mr. Clark? Further reports? Okay, moving on. We have, we'll move on to Section 11. We have petitions. We have one petition for property claim. Motion to refer to Law Department for report and recommendation by Council Martin, second by Council Leahy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, motion carries. Next petition is a miscellaneous petition from Michael Moore, request installation of one handicap sign in front of 114 South Whipple Street. Mr. Moore here. There was not motion to refer this to the traffic engineer for report and recommendation by Council Kennedy, seconded by Council Belanger. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Another miscellaneous petition by Abadia, Dakuna, and M. Hang. Request to address council regarding passageway at 452 Westford Street. Are those two individuals here in the council chamber? M. Hang, Abadia Dacunia. Seeing none, motion to refer this to the Law Department for report and recommendation by Council Smara, seconded by Council Rourke. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Another miscellaneous petition by Tetra Tech, request permission to install, maintain, and decommission monitoring wells on Phoenix Avenue. Motion to refer this to the Law Department as well for report and recommendation by Council Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. 11.5, we have 186 Communication LLC, waveguide, requesting permission to install underground conduit at Westford Street and Technology Drive. This requires a public hearing, which will be set on August 25th. Motion by Council Martin, second by Council Leahy, to send this to that public hearing on the 25th. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Council Mercia?
Are we going into motions now?
We are going into motions.
I'd like to make a motion, since we're almost at the 10 o'clock rule, because I would have voted no, and we would have all left. I know probably I shouldn't speak for my colleague to the right over here, on the left, but...
Well, he's smiling, so there's your answer.
Feel free.
Feel free. But I was going to refer all these motions to the city manager.
Motion by Councilor Mercy. Motion by Councilor Mercy to take all the motions presented.
Got a lot of work to do.
1 through, 12-1 through 12-8
Right.
to the city manager for a report and recommendation. Seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, all the motions are sent to the city manager. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Rourke, seconded by Councilor Smaras. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, that motion carries. This meeting stands adjourned.